Yes, hello. I am James Rowlands, and today it's the Wnr436. It's the G1 Climax 32 presented by New Japan. But I am not alone. I have a pleasure to be joined by the entire WNR podcast team. Up first, a woman who is by my side for every AEW and W pay-per-view, and today she is bringing you her first for Okada. It is, of course, Jaxie Scarlett. How you doing?
The first is real, and it's here to discuss G1. I am very ready for this. Ready and excited to be here, really.
Yeah, I cannot believe it. It's so exciting. I'm buzzing, and I'm glad to have you on board. And up next, a man who is our resident NXT and Japanese expert. And the reason we are doing this, so we could actually blame him. If this is the worst received podcast in WNI history, Monty's is to blame. But if it's the greatest, it is my idea. But we are joined by Monty. No pressure, man. How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm getting a chance to share something that is very special to me when it comes to New Japan pro wrestling and just the fighting spirit and strong style in general that's popular in Japanese pro wrestling. I'm just excited to be able to share this with you guys. So I'm honored. And no matter how it goes, bad or good, I'm going to say it was awesome. So it don't matter.
Well, last, but by no means least, and I quote Jane, which is a song by Jefferson Starship, but we called Gina now. Like a cat and a mouse, from a door to door and a house to house. Don't you pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. Where all these nights we spent together, only because you didn't know better. I gotta know, Gina. You're playing a game. You're playing a game, and of course it is genius. Gina, I don't know what I was thinking when I did that, but I by it. Gina, how's it going?
That is brilliant. Again, another class opening for me. Thanks, James. How's it going?
Do you know what? I could stop the show there. You know, my intro's for you. It's one of the highlights of when we get together. You know,
People tune in just for the intro of Gina.
Exactly. So you are here, and how are you feeling? Are you nervous about delving into the G1 Climax?
A little, yes, but I'm also really excited. I mean, I remember listening to last year's one, and I just thought, I have no idea what they're talking about. So being able to have that knowledge going into this one, I'm super excited.
Without shadow of a doubt. So here we go. For the first time ever on the WNR podcast, we are going to look at the G1 Climax.
King of Sports, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I fucking love that opening as well. I had to have it on this podcast without a shadow of a doubt. But we are going to get on the G1 Climax, considered the most important tournament in New Japan. Will feature 28 wrestlers divided into 4 blocks of 7, A, B, C, and D blocks. Each participant faces all 6 other wrestlers within the same block in single matches. The winner of each block is determined via a point system, with 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and no points for a defeat. Each nightly event sees 1 match from each block between 2 members. On the final 2 days of the event, the winners of each block enter a 4-man playoff to determine the winner of the tournament and also receive a future match at the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship at Wrestle Kingdom. Now, Monty, of course, this is mine and Gina's first G1. How does this compare to the rest in history, and just how important is the G1 Climax in New Japan?
It's like you mentioned, the biggest tournament is the biggest deal. You know, I mean, Best of the Super Juniors is big for the junior heavyweight title in a similar fashion, but it doesn't guarantee a spot in the main event at Wrestle Kingdom, which is their biggest show, which is the closest equivalent to WrestleMania that they have. Usually it's around 20 competitors in A and block, each person fighting around 9 matches in each block. So that's what I mean by just way more than even what you guys saw. It's usually worse, believe it or not, and less spread out than it was for this particular tournament as far as the schedule goes. But of course, the people with 2 best records in their block meeting up in the final. This time it's 4 blocks, 28 competitors, making it even bigger than the other time they had 4 blocks, which was in 2000. That was still 20 people. It was just split up in 4 blocks of 5, I believe. But with more competitors and blocks, it was less room for error this year, because you didn't have as many matches. When you have 9 matches, you can lose 3 matches, come out 6-3, and usually you have 12 points. You're in the final most of the time. But if you lose 3 matches when you only have 6 matches, as you can see, problems arise, and you possibly could have lost your spot. So just made everything a little bit more impactful. And as the tournament went on, you guys saw it created all types of possibilities if we ran into a tiebreaker. So, and which we ended up seeing.
Well, that's what I found quite interesting. Because Jaxie, I mean, we've watched a lot of wrestling together with you and reviewed it. But this kind of concept of G1, I was quite enjoying it because, as Monty said, it wasn't just kind of you lost and you're out. You still had second and third chances in it,
Exactly, and I found myself, especially because I wouldn't say I was going into the G1 with any inclined favourites, so it just kind of made things even more exciting on that front because you were kind of like, oh, okay, so you might have seen a loss here, but then you might come back fighting, even stronger in the next match. So it was just really up in the air as to who really was going to reach the finals.
Yeah, and another thing as well, the talent roster in itself, I think, was when you talk about all the competitors involved, pretty strong groups in themselves. But again, it was going to maybe difficult trying to map out how to watch it, as you were, because for me, I come up with a plan. Gina, I know there's a lot to watch on the G1, but how did you go about trying to watch it all? Or did you? What was your plan?
I mean, I did watch it all, but it definitely, I did not have a plan at all. I just kind of watched parts here and there where I could. Sometimes I get to work from home, so I kind of had it on sort of in the background whilst doing some work. I would just have to squeeze it in, especially because I had a holiday in between, so I had like 6 of them to catch up on, and I didn't really want to skip any because I had started from the beginning. So for me, I had no plan and no schedule. I just chucked it on as and wherever I found time. And I definitely have not gone out for the past few days since coming back from holiday, so I could catch up with the ending before this podcast.
No, well, like I said, it was difficult to do. I mean, I feel a bit more like OCD now the way I did it. Is because I went through the list of kind of matches. I thought I was only picking out a few matches as I went through. I realised it was 25. And I thought, do you know what? That's quite a lot to try and watch. And I split them up into parts. And then I watched them because Monday is the only day of a day off. So I thought I'd just watch 5 matches each week leading up to this podcast. And then today, as we speak, the semi-finals and the finals. So hopefully it's a little bit fresh. So I kind of went about that. Monty, what about you? How did you devour New Japan? Because you've got to do it regularly anyway, haven't you? This is part of the problem.
Yeah. This is basically what I do anyway. At this point, I've been doing it for years. I was lucky enough to watch the first few shows. I think I watched them live. I got a chance to see them like me up 3 a.m. type live watching. So that's how it started. I always try to watch the first few shows and then the last few shows as they air, the way they're meant to be, portrayed to me. But in between that, it was my goal to make sure I caught up so I can be prepared for those last 3 days of competition. And that's basically what happened. I started off watching them live, and then I was like, okay, well, I need to take some time, kind of like what you mentioned, Gina, of just making it part of your schedule, catching up with it. I always kept eyes on who was winning anyway, because I'm the type of guy, it don't matter if they spoil the finish. I'm going to go back and watch the whole match anyway. Like, I'm into this stuff. Like, I'm a freak, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to admit that. But anyway, this is my stuff. I really loved it. I pretty much just split it up. So I caught up, binge watching it, kind of like, skipping through. And then once I was caught up on those last 3 days of block competition, I watched them all live.
Well, do you know what? That's impressive. Jaxie, did you find anything missed out or was put behind New Japan? Because I know recent love for it has kind of shot up. Did you find yourself kind of going, "I'll leave Dynamite to watch a bit of G1"?
Not really, no. I think especially because the G1 was so frequent, I knew I was always going to kind of be playing catch up. So, when it was, sort of Dynamite on Wednesdays and things, I catch up on that anyway. So for me, I just kind of found the time. I found it easiest to be catching up on most of the G1 from like the weekends. So I predominantly would, kind of re-catch myself back up before the start of the next week when more episodes would drop, of course. So, I kind of did it that way, but I think I only struggled towards the very end because if I got, sort of like a lot of other plans that kind of prevented me from them watching the final. So I did a lot of keeping my social media on, turned the notifications off because I honestly did not want the final spoiled for me, and I didn't get it spoiled. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, right, like I said, but it's really, really good that we're just about to start. But before we do, just want to talk about maybe picks, because we can't obviously put any points on the line now, but we just talk about certain wrestlers maybe that we had an eye out for in this one. So, was Monty, start with you. Who were you kind of looking at in this tournament as kind of maybe a pick to win or someone to keep an eye on?
Well, honestly, again, after watching it, watching as much as I always have, Okada is always a big favorite when he's not the champion to end up in the block finals or around. So it was hard to not think of him, but I'm always rooting for Tetsuya Naito. He had a storyline going into this G1, just like every year. He wants to get back to the Dome so he can finally complete his roll call that was cut short by Kenta, which I'll bring up much more as we keep going here. But yeah, I was looking out for Naito in his block because I knew it would be tough. I knew D block would be fun to watch because of all the storylines. So it was hard for me to pick one person. So I'm biased. I chose Naito. But as far as looking at all the blocks and possible matchups, I was excited for a little bit for everything, if you see what I'm trying to say.
Yes, and this is the thing. Since Forbidden Door, we talk possible dream matches or certain talents. Jaxie, was there anybody that you definitely wanted to see and keep an eye out in this G1 after the Forbidden Door?
I think we kind of already made it very abundantly clear how thirsty I can be for Okada. So I definitely was rooting for him. I think that the other person I really was kind of intrigued to watch more of was Tama Tonga. And I just really enjoyed kind of finding out some backstory about, like his history with the Bullet Club. And, the commentators did a really good job of like kind of painting the pictures of each of these characters. So if you are new going into G1, you start to kind of get a clear indication as to what relationships have been formed and things like that throughout all of these different wrestlers. It really was quite a refreshing sort of new content to watch, I would say, because for that very reason, and kind of left me feeling more intrigued to wanting to go back to see what some of these wrestlers have actually gone through and been through. So yeah, I definitely would say probably the top two I was really intrigued to see was Okada and Tama Tonga.
Yeah, without that. Gina, what about you? I know Ricky Starks wasn't in the G1, but who have you kind of gravitated, who have you gone towards?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, I really loved United Empire, and I really found myself gravitating towards Will Ospreay. So, like, every time one of his matches came up, I just found myself really excited to zone in on that match. So I definitely think that he would be at the top of my list of excitement going into it, but a lot of them impressed me. I was kind of impressed with how far that Naito has come, and again, I'm not familiar with all of the wrestlers and their stories, so I don't know, who's at the top at the moment or who's not. But I kind of pegged him as an underdog in the beginning. I didn't really think that he was going to get far, so I was really intrigued to see his sort of journey throughout it with like a fresh pair of eyes as someone who didn't know him. But I'll definitely say I think Will Ospreay was my favorite.
Yeah, I think for me it's really interesting because, especially state wrestling's been in for 2 years now. It's like, even with my picks, and I say picks, it's like Jonah, because we saw him as like Bronson Reed in NXT, the North American title, and I thought, well, how's he going to do in Japan? And he's got to face Okada, and he's got, like I said, it's a monster group, block even. It's going to be interesting. The same with Finn Juice as well, because they were Impact Tag Team Champions, and, they're two guys that have done quite a bit and now gone their separate ways. Of course, Juice in Bullet Club now. Of course, Tom Lawler as well, being a champion on Strong, and then seeing him kind of take the step up again is interesting. And then the British boys, obviously Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr., but even like Jay White, who've seen. So when we say this is what is difficult for me, because I was going, I'll try and only follow a couple of stories, but in the end, it was just the kind of the vast majority of it. But we will get started now. We'll start our journey, of course, on night 1, July 16th. Watch the start. Really like the promo. The New Japan kind of promos and the way they begin the videos is just so kind of different and fun. And Monty, it makes you feel like you're watching a different country. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, it's completely different. It's kind of like what you just mentioned earlier about being refreshing. It's all completely different. It gets you excited. And I know, Jaxie, I know you guys know about this. It felt like that opening, they do a good job of making it feel like anime, a nice battle anime about pro wrestling was about to start.
Yeah.
So
this is exactly what I
definitely
was,
agree.
I think both Gina and I had said the exact same thing, especially with the commentator as well. Like, he really hyped you up for it right at the very beginning,
Yeah, like they're great at that. And the G1, also in the pandemic, a lot of their bigger events had the energy, but not this type of energy. This is like one of the first times since the pandemic that they really were trying to make it feel like it felt a few years ago, at least from my point of view. And this opening was a good example of it.
Yeah, I think without that. And I'll tell you something else that I enjoyed, and I cannot believe it, I can still watch it in 2022, is watching Taka Michinoku wrestle. That was a pleasure. And
yes,
again,
it's a treat.
Especially with Dick Togo, elsewhere, you just think, come on, we're one member away from the reunion everybody wants. The greatest.
Taka is such a bitter old man now, too, by the way. Does not want to be called a legend. He's known for just doing a lot of cursing in Japan. He used a lot of English curse words. So so he's Taka effing Michinoku, so yeah. Taka's great.
It's brilliant stuff. But we'll start with the G1 and C block action. And Aaron Henare, is that the right now to pronounce it? Defeated
Henare.
Henare. So Aaron Henare defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi. And this is an upstart, Monty, surely, because, I thought Tanahashi would be one of the favourites, and I've got Aaron's name wrong, so there you go.
By far the biggest victory in Hanare's career, when he was Toa Henare in Hantai next to Tanahashi a few years ago, Tanahashi was like a mentor. More like someone he idolized. They even teamed together in 2019's Tag League, but, they didn't do well at all. And Tanahashi, kind of told him that he needed to improve himself. Well, Henare definitely did that. Came back as the lethal weapon in 2021 with the United Empire. And as you can see, he's a completely different monster, man. Physical, striking beast. Like during the pandemic, instead of, going back home and being isolated, he went to Thailand and just started training in Muay Thai because they weren't really as affected as bad as other places. And he came back a Muay Thai beast. And this was a great highlight for Henare to finally get a moment to shine. His first singles moment, really, on his own for him to shine. And for him to do it to somebody like Tanahashi, who, like I said, his former partner. It was a great upset that was really sweet if you've been there to watch Hanare's entire journey now.
Wow. Go. So we've got Adam's story already. We moved to D Block with Will Ospreay beating El Fantasma. And this was as good as I hoped. Talk about ELP. He's been in Impact as well, and obviously I've seen him on Strong. And what was interesting, I thought, about this match was there's no taunting. And you think with these two guys, there would be a lot of taunts, but there was nothing like that. The Versal Voz cutters were great, and of course Will getting the victory. He's on a different level, but I think ELP is great in his own right. Jaxie, what did you think of El Fantasma? Because he popped up a few times, and he's someone that I think is hugely athletic.
Yeah, I must admit, I enjoyed quite a few different matches of his. And he really impressed me, I think, the more and more I was watching him throughout the G1, you know. He's one of those ones that you do see a lot, just kind of talking a lot of shit and stuff like that. But then, like you said, he's a high flyer, and he kind of proves like his talent as well when in the ring. This was a great match between the both of them anyway. I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed one that he had against, I think it was Juice Robinson as well. Just very entertaining. So it could go either way, you know, like the match with Will Ospreay was very serious and stuff, but he does have that sort of like comedic side to him as well. And we saw that during his match with Juice. So he's definitely one that I would like to see wrestle again. You know, I would probably like pay attention to a lot of his matches because he's done so well so far.
Never B block action, and the champion JY defeated Sanada. Not seen a lot of him, but the Paradise Lock was lush. A couple of choice near falls. Commitment for the die job as well. You don't usually see that with the beard, and I'm interested to see who can beat JY. And Gina, when you see JY, you just know he's the superstar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Again, for me, it was really new, just seeing kind of the way that New Japan is pro wrestling is run compared to, you know, WWE or AEW. And it's so interesting to see, even though they weren't, you know, the liveliest of crowds, and that's because of obviously that was what was the rules that were in place. You could still tell how much of a star Jay White was every time he came out. Everybody just loved him or loved to hate him, and it was brilliant because his character just comes across, and you can feel it.
I think we had that, like I said, and also he's in great shape. He just the way he carries himself. But hang on, I better save myself because I'll be a lot of Jay
He
White.
is looking absolutely phenomenal. His body is just to dribble at.
And honestly, just like do your washing on it.
Yeah, honestly, you really could. Like, you've got to give him credit for his, you know, overall physique. He's worked hard on it, and it's paid off because he looks amazing.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, on then A block action, we had Okada getting his start against beating Jeff Cobb. Monty, this is a tradition, isn't it? Okada versus Jeff Cobb in the G1, because I've seen this before. And also, if anybody else is wondering about the handling of, we've just had the champion in action, but it's Okada who main events the first night. That will tell you something as well. But it is a tradition, though, Monty, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, Jeff Cobb at this point should be used to putting on a good fight, or, you know, being fun to watch him beat the hell out of Okada just to end up not being enough in the end. But it's always fun, man. Like you said, two impressive athletes. And as much as I would like, I would have liked Cobb to finally get over the hump and pin him legitly in this particular format. I think I knew better. I think we all kind of know better when it comes to dealing with Okada here. But this is all, every time they fight, it's always a good time. So I never complain about watching Jeff Cobb and Okada do their thing. But yeah, man, we, like you said, champion or no champion, it's only one ace. It's only one Rainmaker. I know Tanahashi is still the ace, but you know exactly what I mean when I say this. There's only one guy on top of the card, and that's Okada.
Yeah, and Jaxie, just quickly, obviously, your man, were you impressed with his victory of Jeff Cobb? And I'll tell you what, Jeff Cobb, nearly as wide as Rhino, you know?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that is a very great comparison. He's got a lot of the same sort of skill set that Rhino had or has. But yeah, I would just fangirl the minute you hear his music. He also is a star in his own right, and just very much enjoy watching his entrance. Like, he commands like sort of your attention without even trying too hard, So for me, every time he was in a match, I was very excited, and my full attention was given to him.
We'll move on tonight to July 17th. B block action. We had Taichi defeating Tomohiro Ishii in the A block. Yano beat Jonah by count out. What the actual fuck? I mean, I couldn't believe this.
Yano style, baby.
You talk about contrasting characters. Yano started a match much like I would, just not want to go near him. But he's so stupid. I might like him because he out-tricked Jonah. This was Jonah. I was annoyed. And I thought, no, Jonah should know better, I guess Yano does this all the time, Monty, right?
Yes, this is the Yano special, man. This is the Yano special. As a matter of fact, I don't know if we're going to go into it, but when he fought Okada, you actually got to see a little bit of the old Yano in that match, of him basically being much more vicious and more brutal, because he does have that side of him of where Yano can be he can be unstoppable menace if need be, specifically when he dyes his hair and go back to his Great Bash heel days. But Chaos is Yano, the scamster, the tricker. Toru Yano this is what he does. This is what he does. This is Jonah's first chance to really get in that one-on-one, and it's not uncommon that great wrestlers get made to look like idiots dealing with Yano, because he had no problem giving out low blows. Tito found out too, for that matter. And Yano, come on, it's always a good time for me. I love Yano style. He's another one of those guys that immediately when I first started to watch New Japan, I immediately was like, okay, this is completely different, because not only is he a comedy wrestler, he's a comedy wrestler who will beat your favorite wrestler. It's a difference. Like, a lot of comedy wrestlers have no shot, but he has surprised them all, even Okada in the past.
Yeah, I have to agree with that assessment. When I first saw him in like a singles match and stuff, I was like, what the hell is going on? How the fuck is this guy going to survive against beasts like Jonah and Lance Archer and stuff? And, his first match, with against Jonah, and it actually he actually just proved his tactics, and they were clever at different times. I must admit, I found myself highly entertained watching all of his matches, because he did always have a different mindset for each different match he was in. Yes. It was very entertaining.
Yeah, I think
there's nothing he won't try. He had a great one with Kenny years ago. Like, look it up. Kenny Omega.
We'll move on. C block act. Zack Sabre Jr. submitted Kenta, and this for me, yes all day, twice on a Sunday. I mean, Zack calling everyone a dickhead. I mean, it really is great, but he's also like a bear trap, because you go near him, you get caught. But AEW would call this a dream match. But I mean, Kenta. Another thing about Kenta with the scars, man, because I know him obviously Hideo Itami and NXT and stuff like that. But that journey, obviously, with the War with Mox, and happened. But man, to have this match so early on is brilliant. Gina, what did you think of? Because obviously Kenta from NXT now coming out, and Zack Sabre Jr. Man, he's like an octopus, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the match was just great. Again, for me, I knew Zack Sabre Jr. wasn't as familiar, but I did know of Kenta, and the match was just great. I was so entertained by it, and it made me kind of forget which wrestling promo I was watching for a hot second. So definitely impressed.
I think without a doubt, Kenta had it won as well, but still, I'm over it. D block, we had Juice Robinson beating Shingo. I mean, what's going on, Monty? All the people you told me were good are losing, But this is the biggest.
See, you're all right. I didn't want to do this, but let me tell you, this is a trope of every G1. I promise you. I'm sorry. Upsets. You got to get the people watch. Upsets, baby. And that's what this is. The G1 is bound to have a couple, specifically in the first few shows. They love to time nice upsets, and that's exactly what this was. But this was a necessary one, because Juice's new attitude and him this is the first time of him finally, showing this side of himself in Japan. So for him to get this victory to kind of put put the notion out there that, okay, this Juice Robinson is not the flamboyant, the happy-go-lucky guy who had been clapping up a storm for years because of all the good vibes he brought. He replaced all of that flamboyance with pure anger and spit for some reason, because Juice spits a lot now. I know this.
I was going to say, I didn't think Juice could turn up his character, but he has. It's like Macho in NWO. Like, that's the kind of way he is now, and I'm loving it.
Right. No, it's great. Exactly. I agree with that. Macho Man is a great, because that's how intense he is. That's what the rock hard comes from, I guess. Is all that aggressiveness is like very Macho Man is. But I love it too this way, because Shingo still protected himself in his after-match comment by pointing out that the famous left-handed guard that Juice Robinson has been using for years is a closed fist. We use open fist in New Japan. So he blamed it all. He said Juice Robinson was cheating with his closed fist strike. So he protected himself with that. But either way it goes, it was still a great match. Him beating him with Pulp Friction straight clean shocked me too. But at this point, like I said, I've become used to the G1 trope of early upsets. But this is a good one for Juice, like I said, to reestablish this new version of himself in Japan.
Well, what about that? And the night 3 results, July 20th, D Block, David Finlay lost to Yuro Takahashi. B Block, Tamatonga beat Chase Owens. A Block, Lance Archer lost to Bad Luck Fale. And then C Block, Hiroku Goto upset Naito as well. So again, Monty, is this what you're telling me? Like, I've just got, thinking this is only going to happen on the first couple of nights. Once we get deep in to the tournament, this is where it truly begins to heat up then.
Well, the way I like to think about it is the longer the tournament goes on, the best players get better. And then the players who are not the best wrestlers or whatever, they tend to falter the longer the tournament goes, if you see what I'm trying to say. Or they never had a shot in the first place. So, like, you got that spectrum. You got, like, a lot of times you got a couple of ways. You can go dominant, completely dominant, like Jay White most of the tournament or whatever, or like Okada usually does. Or you can be one of those guys who started off rocky but then got on the streak, got hot. Like I said, as you watch, the more G1s you see, you'll be just like me and you start picking up on certain trends. But
thinking,
it happens though.
To put it in perspective to maybe people that never, just watched this for the very first time.
Yeah.
Imagine watching a Rumble match and the guy that come in at number 5 has now got 3 or 4 eliminations and cleared the ring. Doesn't mean he's going to carry on and win the Rumble.
Yeah.
It means that, the next entrant is
and
a
he
guy.
eliminated a favorite, an early favorite. Like people you thought was going to win it. But this guy does not keep it going, basically. So that's basically what happened.
So basically, no point looking at the table to about halfway. Thanks for that, Monty. Well, we move on to night 4, July 23rd.
It's a long journey.
Yeah, without doubt. C Block action. Zack Sabre Jr. beat Aaron Henare. D Block, Shingo got his first win versus Yoshihashi. And A Block action, Okada beat Toru Yano. And of course, with both men on 1 win each, I don't think there's any way Santino was beating Cena. But Jaxie, what do you think of this? Because like Monty mentioned, we saw a different side to Yano in this.
Yeah, again, it's for me, everything's still quite relatively new, but it was interesting to kind of be watching all these different ways of wrestling. A lot of the wrestlers in New Japan have different kind of training or tend to have different kind of training from what those that wrestle in American-based companies have. So it was really interesting to see all these different skill sets get brought into it. Aaron Henare is kind of one of those ones that's pretty unpredictable in terms of his moveset as well. So again, another quite enjoyable match of just kind of watching it. I didn't actually have a favorite. I just was intrigued to see who was going to be the better man in this match.
And B Block action, we had Jay White down in Tomohiro Ishii, which was interesting because Ishii beat Jay White early this year for the open weight title, and it's Jay White's probably only his main loss, I think, in maybe the past 12 months. White did spend a lot of time outside in the open, and it's not bad. And I don't mind Jay clapping instead of talking. No one's really done that before. So maybe it could...
He's an asshole, Jay. He's an asshole. He know the people. he know the people can't talk, so he claps to mock them. Come on, man. Just an asshole. That's all Jay is.
Just class. It's the little things, just what we like to see. Night 5 results, July 24th. D Block El Phantasmo beat Yurihiro Takahashi for his first win. B Block Action Sonada got his first win against Taichi. A Block Jeff Cobb got his first win versus Bad Luck Fale. And C Block Hiroshi Tanahashi beat Naito for the Aces first win. So Tanahashi, I mean, Gina, he did main event Forbidden Door. No, it was main event Forbidden Door. And now he's just barely picking up the win here. But Tanahashi, do you think, what do you think of this?
I mean, which match was this? The one where he lost?
He just beat Naito, so the Ace's first win. And what do you think of his chances at this point in time?
I mean, again, because I was quite focused on Naito, I assumed he was going to win it. So for me, I was like, oh, okay, this can win a match. Because again, for my first match seeing him, he lost. So I didn't know whether he was just going to be one of those ones that loses to everybody in the first part. So yeah, it was interesting to see. But again, because they're so new to me, I don't know which one I preferred over the other in terms of when I was watching it. I just found myself enjoying the equal blows that they were giving each other and being surprised by that ending, which is nice and fresh to actually not know who's going to come out the winner.
Yeah, I think this is the thing as well. I think Okada, we know, like, he's the man. So whoever else, it's like with Shingo, I would put with these two guys as well. Of like, I know New Japan thinks a lot of them, but we don't know what position they're in, like a ranking type. And I think this is kind of sorting it out. And later again, second match, second loss. Monty, were you panicked yet? Or did you... I've seen this before.
No, I wasn't. No, because it's 6 matches. If this was 9 matches, yes, I would have been fine because I've seen him string a bunch of wins together, even not doing the best at the beginning. Hell, I've seen Tanahashi do that in years past. By the way, it's funny. So Tanahashi and Naito have so much history together. Like, Naito was the chosen one in 2010 when they had a great match together. Tanahashi held his hand up and said, Tetsuya Naito, me and you're going to make classics together. You're going to be basically anointing him the new ace. Well, 2010, guess who showed up in 2012, 2 years after that? The actual person who stepped in and named Okada, of course. But he was not really he wasn't a planned variable. He ended up just being so much, what he became. But anyway, the point about this is him and Naito have got it's kind of like a teacher-student rivalry, but at the end of the day, it's way more personal. Like, Naito rejected that, did not want to be basically his clone. And, of course, the fans eventually rejected him. So it's a whole lot of stuff. Trust me, I can go forever when it comes to that. But the point is, Tetsuya Naito for years has had the upper hand, even though the record says that they were still pretty close. Their career 8-8 against each other now because of this loss. Because Tanahashi again out wrestling his guy in this situation, but getting to roll up the way he did with all of the pressure that they have basically always had against each other. This was a monumental win for Tanahashi, who has been struggling these last few years to return back to his old ace form. So the ace that you guys got to see in Forbidden Door's main event is the face of New Japan Ace. And he's a representative. He's like an ambassador. But in New Japan currently, he is a guy who was looked at as a little bit, past his prime and still trying to show that he is still the ace of New Japan. So I just wanted to give you guys clarification on the version of Tanahashi you're kind of seeing now based on how he felt when you saw him fight in the main event. I hope that helped a little bit. So
yeah, it does actually kind of confirm, I kind of had a feeling like it was kind of like that as well. That's how it, he was eventually starting to come across to me, kind of like I also don't know if this is a bit of a biased opinion, but I was very much to be honest, now that I'm watching this, I question why it wasn't Okada facing Jon Moxley, and why it was Tanahashi and stuff,
I think it was the quickness of losing his belt. Okada
Yeah.
lost his belt like 2 weeks before that. So switching motivations that quick probably didn't make too much sense. Plus, they had already gave it to Tana.
Yeah, and that's really true as well. So, but I mean, that being said, it's not that I don't enjoy Tanahashi. I think he's very talented and everything. But I do also kind of agree that maybe he doesn't realize that he's past his prime. But again,
don't ever say that to him. He don't acknowledge it. They don't acknowledge that.
That's why he comes across as the type of guy that you just would not say that to. You would just, you would actually.
Same thing with Suzuki.
Yes. Yeah. You'd entertain that, and they are very entertaining still. So it's not like you can go wrong with that. But at the same time, it was interesting to just be watching him throughout this tournament,
Yeah, I think without doubt. And it's like I said, interesting overall because, we have assumptions coming into it from certain ways of how wrestlers treated it. And obviously Monty with the deep dive there about it. But it's always, this is what I love about wrestling as well, is the outsider's take it to come in is a fresh pair of eyes and a new look, and a new story as well, which was even interesting. Night 6, July 26th, B Block, Chase Owens beat Your Hero Mine, Great O'Khan. A C Block, Evil beat Kenta by count out. And I thought Kenta, if he lost, but there was other reasons why Kenta kept losing, Monty, wasn't there?
Oh my God, I just love how everything was fine once they decided they're going to promote his book. Like Kenta's relentless promotion of this book, even though he was continuing to tell us in this comment, I'm done promoting my book. He never stopped promoting that book. Even after it released, he was continuing to promote it. He was promoting the restocks. Kenta was a masterful promoter this entire tour. And unfortunately for us, his autobiography was only in Japanese. So it would have been nice if we get one, for everyone to see. But say that again.
I actually looked it up to see if I could get his book, and I was desperate to find out it's not in English.
Yeah, exactly. He has great stories, though. One of the greats of this last, 20 years in Japanese pro wrestling and just wrestling around the world. But honestly, though, he did a great job here. And like you said, like Big Togo, by the way, don't even get me started. Like I can go forever on what Evil has become, but leveraging count out victory for promoting the book, I did love it because Big Togo, no, he screwed Kenta. And his apology was like, "Oh, look, I'll show everyone the book." He even posed with it, like, "Buy this."
The thing with Kenta is that he blamed other things as well. It wasn't just kind of like normal interference.
Poor cameraman. The chubby cameraman, whenever he showed up, it just so happened to be when Kenta loses.
It's just great stuff. A Block action. Archer beat Filthy Tom. Archer is a different beast in Japan. I mean, it was Dynamite versus Strong in Styles. Archer was cut down, but Tom decided to taunt at the wrong time. Gina, like I said, it's all about Last Archer. It is a different dude, isn't it?
When you say different dudes, what do you mean in terms of compared to how he is?
Lance Archer and Dynamite compared to New Japan.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. I mean, for me, on New Japan, he just came across as a lot more dominating. A lot of people seemed scared of him, and he just seemed to have this aura about him that definitely isn't on his AEW character. If you ask me, I think he should remain in New Japan because I think he's much bigger there, and he was great. He was so entertaining to watch. I was looking forward to all of his matches too. And because he was somebody that was familiar, I was more keen to watch those matches when they had wrestlers that I was more familiar with. So I was then learning more about the New Japan wrestlers that were in those matches with them. So it was a lot harder for me to concentrate in the earlier matches between two sort of New Japan wrestlers that I didn't know anything about, but I grew to know about them the more interest I grew, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, with Tom Lawyer, I mean, we probably might shouldn't, we should
Oh,
talk about
God.
him a little bit more. But
Oh.
denim on denim's a look, isn't it?
I'm really sorry. I could not stand his character. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great wrestler. I just couldn't stand his character.
Well, the thing is about Japan is a gift that keeps on giving, because he is it kind of the G1, but even the matches that are happening like on the undercard and kind of filling it up. We were speaking about on actual chat in itself, and it was Jaxie saying with Will Ospreay's interactions with Lance Archer was just hilarious in themselves,
Yeah, that was some of my favorite stuff. Just watching his frustration. It really just humanizes the wrestlers, and just seeing Will Ospreay's frustration at like failing time and again to be able to really successfully land a successful hit on Lance Archer. I was so entertained. That is exactly what any person would do when they're just at a loss at what to do to get this big man down,
Yeah, but, and it's like I said, and also the language they can use. I don't know if there is, Monty, is there like a filter in Japan, or don't they know what they're saying? Because Zack Sabre Jr., if he was wrestling at NXT UK, it would just be like a prolonged beep.
They know. Trust me, they. I'm not gonna say I know if all the Japanese wrestlers know, but everyone who speaks English knows that they could do whatever they want. It's raw, man. It's completely uncut. Completely uncut.
I was going to say, I actually think that it's potentially, this is just a guess on my end, but it could be that the company don't mind that they're like this, because they don't get loads of boos or cheers from the crowd, sort of like helping on the whole idea of who's a face and who's a heel. So the wrestlers have to do a lot of that through chatting shit, and so that is the best way to solidify yourself as a heel. I can just imagine that the Japanese probably don't take as much offense to the swear words that they use.
It's complete freedom. They have complete freedom, man. A lot of it
I took from it. It does feel like the wrestlers can be a lot more relatable in this sense as well, because I just found all of the wrestlers, I didn't really look at as, oh, this is their character. Like, I was looking at it like, this is them. Like, it feels a lot more realistic. Like, it doesn't really feel like they're putting on a persona. And I think that actually helps with sort of building those storylines and things.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And then we had D-Block action, Juice versus Finn, the former Impact and IWGP Tag Champs. Finn Juice met for the first time since going their separate ways. And even if Juice does have the club, Finlay produced a career-defining performance and win to show he is not the Jannetty. And he also took the US title from Juice, which does belong to Will. I really dug this story because obviously as a team I was invested, and it's always good because this is the kind of start, literally, of what Finlay will become as a singles, and obviously Hill Juice as well, Monty.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, it's meaningful for so many reasons. It was in Kurikan Hall, I believe, and that audience got a chance to see David Finlay, Juice, and even Jay Wright when he was when they were young lions. They were often always teamed up together. I mean, they were mostly I think they were pretty much the only foreign people in their young lion class. So that's a smart reason why they was always together. But they watched them and seen them grow, and now. Not only has Jay White turned his back on Finlay, but Juice has also turned his back and joined the Bullet Club on David Finlay. So, and before this match, the way Juice talked about his former friend, and basically just saying he was nothing, and the only reason why he was ever any good was because of his father, and of Dave Finlay. The Finlay, I guess, would be a great way to say it in this case, but. And for Finlay to win big here in this spot, like I said, in that arena, giving Juice everything he deserved and more with the great match, and just like I said, the moment with the Shillelagh taking the belt, it all came together perfectly. And like I said, if you add that little context that Juice Robinson, Jay White, Dave Finlay, all in the same class, learned, picked up things together in the dojo, just for Jay White to leave for excursion and come back. Seemed like he's going to be in chaos, but then join Bullet Club. And then Juice Robinson to be a good guy for as long as he had. He never even needed an excursion. They kept him in Japan. And he just basically debuted as flamboyant Juice Robinson. And for him to switch on him and become what he's become now, it was a great moment to watch Finlay get a little bit of that revenge.
Right, now, night 7 results, July 27th. D Block, Will Ospreay beat Yurihiro Takahashi. A Block, Toriano lost to Bad Luck Fale. C Block, Hiroko Goto beat Aaron Henare. And B Block, Tamatonga lost to Tomohiro Ishii. Now, Ishii's another dude, like we talked about earlier, beating Jay White this year, beating Tamatonga. But then again, you know, the way what happened in the G1, losing elsewhere. And we talked about even someone like Tanahashi, who is still considered a big star. When it comes to Ishii, it just seems it's really good booking because it shows he can win big matches, but it's like the distance between the matches now. You know, it's like Ric Flair losing on Raw.
Yes.
So like, do you know what I mean? Like, but he can still put out a big one every now and again.
Right. That's exactly, and I'm glad you noticed it because if the rumors are true and he may be slowing down as far as being in the G1 going forward, who knows? Especially with all the injuries, Ishii is a monster though. To be fair, I hate to say this, but that's been the story of his career. Exciting performances, you know, can win big matches, but never those big matches. And he even mentioned that going into this G1 on how he can always give a great performance, but cannot win the big one. So it seems like that's the storyline that they're going with when it comes to the Stone Pitbull. He doesn't have much to say, but that's how great Ishii is. He doesn't even have to tell you anything. Everything you need to know about Ishii is done in between those moves. And yeah, like you said, the fact that you can just see from his body language and just from the way he's being booked, the fact that he's slowly but surely wearing down, that was a great catch, in my opinion, Jack. Good catch.
Thanks. Night 8. I'm going to be horrible to you now as well. The next, because this is already written, all right? You've just been nice to me. But then I put night 8, July 30th, D Block. David Finlay got the biggest upset of the G1 so far as Monty's boy, Shingo, lost to Finlay. I apologise. But what a victory for Finlay here.
Yeah, 100%. I was not expecting this, in all honesty, especially with how Shingo had pretty much started the tournament out. But honestly, at that point, I was like, okay, well, this block is going to get really interesting down the line if he got victories here. And I knew Ospreay was next, so I'm like, okay, this is going to be really, really interesting when it comes to Finlay's side. And then when it came to Shingo, it was just I couldn't believe he lost, but he got out wrestled, and Finlay taking advantage of that moment. And just winning, he was on a roll of a lifetime. And if it's one thing I mentioned earlier about G1, when somebody is on a run and they're rolling, you know what I'm saying? Anything can happen. So this really ended up not being too surprising, even though I would not lie about being shocked by the result.
Well, the A Block action, Jonah got his first win versus Tom Lawyer. I mean, Tom had an unlucky draw in the G1. All right. But Jonah, though, is money, man. He looked like King Kong on his entrance, and he had to wait 11 days for his first to second match, but he is a killer indeed. Jaxie, Jonah, throughout the whole tournament, the way he carries himself is just this huge monster.
Right? I mean, like, I got to admit, you know, watching him continuously throughout the G1, I continuously said, and why didn't we see this Jonah when he was Bronson Reed? Like, we saw like a decent amount of it on NXT, but like the way that he was packaged when he came to the sort of like brief, he had a brief run, didn't he, on the main roster? Or am I making that up?
No, he didn't get called up in the end. It was only in NXT.
Okay. I think it was probably towards the end of his tenure in NXT then, probably didn't help with 2.0, but it just, it was just a bit disappointing to see kind of this Jonah, you know, and I was like, why have we not seen this before? It's kind of similar to sort of FTR, in my opinion. When they were in WWE as the Revival, I kind of just saw them as a joke team. And since them joining AEW, they literally are in like my top 3 tag teams. You know, they're top guys. You know, and it's exactly the same with Jonah. The way that he came across throughout the G1, he's a top dog, you know? So great comparison there. I didn't actually even do that on purpose, but it's great.
Well, B block, Sanada beat Japan's hero and ours, the Great Khan. C block, Hiroshi Tanahashi ruined Zack Sabre Jr.'s perfect score. Yes, the two losers from the Forbidden Door showed everyone how good they really are at wrestling, even though Zack had his arm under the rope when the pin was made. But again, Gina, we saw these two guys losing at Forbidden Door. We wondered how they'd perform in the G1, and they just give us a fantastic match.
Yeah, it was so interesting watching their match again and remembering that they had that match on Forbidden Door. And to be honest, again, I hadn't seen much of these guys, so I didn't know too much. And I was excited to see them come back and do this match again. And it was so good and entertaining. And it made it more and more enjoyable because I remembered some backstory from what happened with them. So yeah, it was enjoyable.
Right, shall I know? Well, night 9, July 31st. From now on, it is 5 block matches on a card. An A block action was Jeff Cobb versus Lance Archer. Jim Ross would be drooling over this on commentary. I just heard his voice. I mean, two big men throwing the other around. Who doesn't love that, eh? Meaty men slapping meat is what we need. Cobb bound. I don't know if you ever seen that before. He did. The tour of the islands was banana as well. Jaxie, this was just great action between these two guys.
Yeah, highly entertaining. I just kind of reevaluate what I said when it comes to like their different wrestling forms and things, and it was just really intriguing to keep on watching sort of the back and forth between these two, because you just really didn't know who was going to get that upper hand in that which moment, you know.
And again, to show the strength of both men to be able to throw the other around, credit to that, you know.
Definitely.
Well, D block action with Juice Robinson, G1 got even worse as he lost to Yoshihashi. B block IWGP champ Jay White went 3 for 3 versus fellow Bullet Club member Chase Owens. A block unbeaten Bad Luck Fale lost to Kachikiga Okada, who continues undefeated. And C block, Naito got his first win versus Evil. So a couple of, like I said, Fale's undefeated streak came to an end, and then he got his first win. This was a good night for you, Monty.
Yes, anytime Naito beats Evil, that damn turncoat that he is, anytime Naito pins him, I'm happy. They had a great match. Naito finally makes Evil wrestle, by the way. Evil rarely wrestles over 15 minutes anymore because he's just trying to screw everyone at this point. But Naito always brings out the best in his old friend, and I thought they ended up having a good one. You mentioned also Jay White and Chase Owens. Jay White tried to screw his boy, gave him nothing but $200 to try to get him to lay down for him, and it didn't work. Chase ended up giving him a really, really good fight over that money, by the way.
Yeah, about that. Well, like I said, it was a good night of action there. And then we get to night 10, August 2nd. B block, Tomohiro Ishii lost to our hero, Great-O-Khan, who got his first win of the G1. Go on, Great-O-Khan. You can still do this, son. A block, Tom Locke got his first win versus Toru Yano even. B block, Tamatonga beat Sanada. C block, Finlay beat Will Ospreay. Now, this was a surprise. Will's look of disdain when he saw Finn with the belt, but it was a great match. But Finn takes the lead of D block from Will. He's been on fire. Monty, look, we're halfway through. This is got to mean, you know, Finlay leading at this point, losing, you know. Come on.
No, I'm with you. This was the star-making performance for me because of who he was fighting and the fact, you know, not only has he already pinned another world champion, but the way he did this, the definitive nature in which he did this to Ospreay. And also, again, Ospreay asking for it. You know, you mentioned Juice Robinson earlier losing his match to Yoshihashi. Well, he told Yoshihashi he sucked. Guess what Yoshihashi told Juice Robinson? Right after that match, he said, Juice Robinson, how does it feel to lose to a wrestler who sucks? Well, there's a similar fashion happened here. Ospreay was just so angry about how his title has basically just been hot potatoed around. He didn't take Finlay that seriously or thought Finlay was even on his level. And that's what ended up costing him because, as you mentioned, Finlay definitely brought the fight. And I believe this is officially New Japan announcing or showing you, because he did have an impressive New Japan Cup where he lost to Ospreay. So, here now in this situation, him getting up this victory, I think now that puts Finlay on another level as maybe a possible singles babyface right now, at least someone to be in the U.S. title picture that's not Juice Robinson and that's not Will Ospreay. So I do think at the very least it means David Finlay will be fighting for the U.S. title in the future. Other than as far as what does it mean for this tournament, it just means he's on top for now.
well, let's build some excitement, all right? So let's say, look, we're halfway through. Let's have a look at the table for the very first time. So A block, we've of course got Okada with 3 wins from 3 on 6 points. Bad Luck Fale and Jeff Cobb on 4 points each. And then we've got Jonah, Lance Archer, Tom Lawyer, and Toriano all on 2 points. On to B block, Jay White, 3 from 3 as well for the world champs on 6. Tamatonga Sanada on 4 points. Taichi, Chase Owens, Greater Khan, Tomohiro Ishii all share 2. And in the C block, you've got Goto, Tanahashi, Zack Sabre Jr. on 4. Evil, Hanare, Naito, Kenta on 2. And then D block, Finlay takes the lead on 6 points. Will Ospreay on 4. And then Yoshihashi, El Phantasma, Juice, Shingo, Takahashi, all on 2 points. So let's take a little break from the G1 as we are halfway through. And I just want to talk about quickly, and Monty, I wanted to, Kishida, his return match, July, you're the one that told me actually, so it's your fault. July 3rd, New Japan Road, Alex Zane, Kishida and Tanahashi versus Kenta, Ishimori and Gedo. Good stuff. Kishida had a lot of time in the ring. And this is the thing I'm a bit surprised, because when a returning guy comes, even if it's a tag match, I'm thinking, we're going to get hot tag. But he wrestled the majority of it, which, again, is a pleasant surprise,
Yeah, man. They sold those tickets on the base. Attendance there and watching on New Japan World, a chance to see Kushida back in his element in a New Japan ring. It was also nice for me to see, for the first time in a while, the little ace, as they used to call him, the junior ace, a junior ace teaming with his, the real ace, Kazuchika. I'm calling him Kazuchika. God damn it.
See, it's not just me, is it?
Kazuchika. The ace.
Tanahashi, yeah.
Oh, I'm glad he's not listening to this, or he doesn't. I'm shoot. Anyway, yeah, glad it's nice to see him team up with his ace partner. As they were both aces of New Japan over the last decade or so. They were dominant in both divisions, and so it was great to see Kushida back in his element.
Well, July 4th, Kushida and Tanahashi versus Kenta and Ishimori, and Kushida actually tapped. And I thought, you don't just walk back in and beat the champ.
Exactly. Good point. Taiji Ishimori is, showing you that, no, I welcome back, but yeah. And I love the fact that it is Taiji Ishimori, because Taiji Ishimori is a great opponent for him because of how similar they are. Their submission, he's looking for the shoulder, Kushida's looking for your arm. So it's really going to be a battle of who's going to take advantage of whose limb the best. So I really can't wait for them to finally have that encounter.
And then July 5th, we had Okada, Ishii, and Zayn beating Nagata, the DKC, and Clark Connors. And this I thought was interesting, because Okada, obviously a main talent, but he's involved in, no offense to the rest of them, but kind of bottom to mid card, just to kind of gain more interest in the match itself by sticking a kind of superstar in that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and for New Japan Road, a lot of times just to continue to build hype for their next tour, they will do stuff like that. And I agree with you. It's kind of funny to see Okada in that situation, but it's not that uncommon. in all honesty, in New Japan, especially when someone like Yuji Nagata, even though he may not be he may not be where he was or where people should associate with him. He's nowhere near his prime, but his name value, he's always going to be a legend to those New Japan fans. So just getting a chance to watch him and for them to look at some of the younger guys like the DKC, for example, I think is also what they enjoy to do there. I think that was encouraging too. So, yeah.
And then Tanahashi Kushida and Jado beat Bullet Club, Kenta, Taiji Ishimori, and Gado. And Gado, they used to be tag team together because I remember that either back in the day, wasn't it? You know, not showing my age, but even then. Good stuff, and even better, Kushida making his Impact Wrestling debut, teaming up with the Motor City Machine Guns, calling themselves the Time Machine, and Monty.
Nice.
Yes, they are the coolest fucking three-man team. I don't care about the Trios tournament in AEW. These three guys, their match on Impact, just gone, was fantastic, and Gina, you're going to be lucky enough to see the Motor City Machine Guns because they're going to be on All Out now because Jay Lethal realised he needs good tag team partners. So hopefully,
why are they heels? It's so weird that they're probably going to be heels, right? So weird to look at them. Heels now, right?
My only hope for Motor City Machine Guns is that this match is there, so we get FTR versus Motor City at Bound for Glory. So if that bit of business can be done, I'll be kind of more than happy. But this is the interesting thing about tag titles on Impact, actually held by the Good Brothers at this moment in time, and the contract are going to expire in the middle of July. Well, it's added towards the end of August. There are tapings coming up. Weirdly enough, on Impact, we talk about the United Empire, the new... I'm going to get really confused because there's like 8 different programs connected, but the New Japan Strong, they got new champions, which is, of course, Aussie Open. And they're wrestling on the Good Brothers on Impact as well. So there's kind of we don't know what's kind of there's like 3 or 4 programs crossing over. I'm just trying to hold on at this moment in time. But with Good Brothers, Impact's not really worked out for them. They've been wrestling a lot in Japan recently, but there has been rumours about WWE. Jaxie, as an impartial, what were your thoughts on the Good Brothers as a team? Would you want them in WWE, even AEW? Because we saw them hanging around with Kenny Omega for a little bit, didn't we?
Definitely. I mean, to be fair, they're a little bit like their bikes, aren't they? They go around to different teams and just team up with them from different companies. But that being said, I do love this duo. I think that obviously the chemistry between them is real. They've got a lot of talent that I think that was underutilized when they were in WWE. So I wouldn't recommend them going back to WWE. As much as I would love to see them reunite with AJ Styles, I also just don't think that WWE is right for them. That being said, do I see them in AEW again? I can see them in AEW again, but where I think that they have been shining really has been kind of seeing them in New Japan. I know that they've been there before. They come across more confident and united, or from what I've seen of them in New Japan Wrestling. So I wouldn't mind seeing them in New Japan Wrestling. I know they're Impact tag champs as well. I haven't watched a lot of Impact. I've watched a couple of different of their pay-per-views. So that's kind of when I get a chance to see them there as well. They kind of shine more on the indie scenes. And I'm seeing more of a big deal in the indie scenes. And I wonder whether or not, if they did kind of go back to AEW, they may be like sort of underutilized, and not even in a bad way. It just kind of there's enough talent there at the moment that I don't feel like their presence is needed.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. We did get some good news though, because we have mentioned it on the podcast before. We've probably noticed where we're not talking about women's wrestling at all with New Japan. That's because obviously in Japan we have companies like Stardom. New Japan, of course, have announced they're creating the IWGP Women's Championship as well. There's going to be, hopefully be crowned at the first ever New Japan Stardom show on November 20th. And we're hoping to see this championship defended at Wrestle Kingdom as well. Now, Gina, did you ever, it's interesting to talk about women's wrestling, especially when it comes to Japan. But did you seem to miss it from the G1? But obviously, this can only be good news to see women now on kind of Wrestle Kingdom cards and maybe even have a G1 of their own.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I definitely miss seeing some women's wrestling with all the matches that we had to sit through for G1. It would have been, I felt like it would have been nice to have some women's wrestling on there. But that being said, going into watching G1, I knew that it was just male wrestling because the females had Stardom, so I already knew that. I think like for people who aren't aware of the fact that they have their own separate wrestling brands, that probably would shock them, and they probably would question why is there no females wrestling. Instead, all we're seeing is females coming out sort of with some of the guys, because I can't remember everyone's name, sorry, but some of the guys came out with the females on their arm, sort of thing. So again, like I can imagine those watching G1 and not knowing that they have separate brands to be confused why there's no women's wrestling. But it's great news to hear that we're going to get a women's champ and eventually, hopefully, like you said, get our own female G1 eventually.
Yeah, I think hopefully, without a shadow of a doubt, it'll be interesting to see, because recent times, well, in Japan, they had the most popular wrestlers have been revealed during a TV special on TV. I don't even want to try and pronounce that, but I won't. So the top 15 wrestlers in Japan, 10,000 Japanese fans were asked. Number 15 was Suzuki Nakamura, 14 was Ibushi, 13 Maya, I'm going to get these names wrong, Iwatani, 12 Zack Sabre Jr., 11 Starlight Kid, 10 Minoru Suzuki, 9 Jay White, 8 Shingo, 7 Will Ospreay, 6 El Desperado, 5 Hiromu, 4 Muto,
Hiromu Takahashi.
Number 3 Naito, 2 Tanahashi, 1 Okada. Now, Monty, you took joy from this list.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the fact that Shinsuke is still the top 15 most popular, and he hasn't been wrestling now 6 years, is the thing that really caught my attention. But yeah, there's a lot of things to see, and just I was very, very proud to see just how popular Zack Sabre Jr. has become. I mean, the thing is about Zack, he's ingratiated himself in Japanese culture. He moves there. He started, he knows the language as best as he can, as far as I know, and he's done a lot of things to ingratiate himself in Japan. Same thing with Ospreay, living there. I don't know if he still lives there, but I know he lived there for a time, and just again ingratiating himself in the culture. So to see guys like that not from Japan, but to be ranked so highly in this poll was really, really cool to see, because again you kind of see all that hard work, and also to see how popular the flag bearers of the junior heavyweight division, like Hiromu and El Desperado, being right there, right around the 2-3 of the most, if not they are the biggest Japanese pro wrestlers in the world, with Naito, Tanahashi, and Okada. They've been basically in that ranking, that exact ranking right there of 1, 2, 3 has probably been the same setup for at least the better part of the last 6 years or so. So it was a great list to see. Again, of course, with Okada being on top, but also seeing Starlight Kid and the great Mayu Iwatani, who's been one of the greatest in stardom for the better part of since like 2011, pretty much. So yeah, over a decade now. So yeah, Iwatani's great. Starlight Kid is great. So again, that shows you Stardom's popularity also in the poll. So yeah, man, it was just awesome for many reasons, but it's cool to see that, man. It makes me wish that we had things like that, where it was just all wrestling fans over here would do it, and it wouldn't just be like from PWI or just from this source or that. You know what I mean? Something that was directly from the people who watch it the most, the fans. But hey, who knows? Maybe it is something like that. I don't know anything about it.
Well, speaking about something that only happens in America, we're talking about Hiromu Takahashi, because he defeated independent stand-up Blake Christian at the 30th of July event. And when he returned to his hotel room afterwards, he found personal items and undisclosed sum of money were missing. He reported it to the front desk. He said, I generally keep valuables with me when I'm abroad, but 2 T-shirts, a tank top, 2 pairs of shorts, and the neck pillow I'd washed and hung in my room were missing, and the amount of money may not be big, but I was so pissed off that I told the front desk clerk, hey, I just got back from a show and everything is gone. I had a lot of help here, filing damage reports and so on. I think people are planning to travel abroad should be cautious. I wouldn't mind people, the overseas travel is scary, although they may have forgotten about it due to COVID. I want to make people to believe never to leave important things at hotels and not go out. But America is great.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, it can happen. It definitely can happen. It's sad that's what we, that's what now. And now look at me, I gotta represent the country.
you are
in
American.
Hotel. Yeah, I gotta represent all of us. Whatever. No, it sucks though. It sucks that again we have people coming over here traveling abroad. But I do agree with him, of spreading that message, because a lot of people in Japan have not been traveling since this whole thing been going on. So it's not. I do agree with him being the role model that he is, of trying to warn a lot of his fans about the dangers of that. Because obviously that doesn't happen everywhere. Now I'm unaffected because I'm used to hearing about this type of thing. So take that what you will, James. I'm used to it.
Fine. So we're going to go back to the G1. Should I play the King of Sports theme again? I think I should. I mean, I'm going to play that and we'll go back to action.
King of Sports, New Japan Pro Wrestling.
I fucking love that. So here we go. Night 11, August 5th. D block, we got Yurihiro Takahashi defeating Juice Robinson. B block, Taichi beating Chase Owens. C block, Tetsuya Ito beating Aaron Hanare. And the A block, the match I've been waiting for, Jonah beating Jeff Cobb. But this match is going to be good when there's a round of applause to start. These were just two balls just running into each other. Jaxie, Cobb versus Jonah was just incredible. Did you think the ring was going to break with the weight of the superplex?
Yeah, at one point I definitely said that, and I'm pretty sure the commentators did too. They both went hard, and you could tell that they just both used their full strength. The match was amazing. It was just kind of like a rush to watch, because you just really didn't know who was going to be the overall winner and the overall outcome of this match. It was crazy. It went hard. Both men went hard.
Yeah, and I love the fact Jonah quickly followed up with a tsunami splash, learning from maybe earlier mistakes, just trying to get it job done,
Definitely. I mean, he proved how much of a beast he could be when let off the leash, so to speak, Yeah,
without a doubt. C block, Evil lost to Hiroshi Tanahashi. And then on to night 12, August 6th. D block, Yoshihashi beat El Phantasmo. A block, Toru Yano lost to Lance Archer. C block, my man Zack Sabre Jr. beat Hirooki Goto by submission. And B block, our hero, Greater Khan versus Jay White. Greater Khan makes chicken noises. Jay White says, I ain't a motherfucking chicken. Gina, can we get this anywhere else apart from the G1? I mean, I love it. I mean, Greater Khan may be out of the running, but pure entertainment. And he is a hero, let's not forget.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I loved Greater Khan. Again, I loved seeing him, tag with Will Spray and Audio sometimes. So, in the tag sort of tournament part. But watching him in this match was just great. And you're not going to get this sort of entertainment anywhere else. You really not. Because, I think, if you saw anyone else trying to pull off like you're in the chicken and then someone screaming at him he's not a fucking chicken, I don't think that would be... It would be more taken in a cheesy light rather than in New Japan. It was more just comical and great. So I agree with you there.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is hearing the commentary talking about Greater Khan. And obviously, Monty, you've mentioned it. He's kind of like the promo guy for the group, but he's kind of like the golden boy of New Japan as well, which is so interesting to hear.
He's a prodigy. He's a prodigy, man. He shined. He was one of those guys who was already one of the greatest amateur wrestlers in Japan before he joined the dojo. So when he got to the dojo, he just picks things up naturally, and this character, I can't even explain his origin. It has Chinese influences, but it also has Mongolian influences. Hence why, besides him taking it from Tenzin, the Mongolian chops that he loves doing complete all the time. But it's no one like Oka, and I think that's the thing. Whenever he went on excursion, he was figuring out how he wanted to return to Japan. He just hit the perfect combination of like not only like a great character or unique. He keeps you watching because you've never seen anyone who moves like him. You've never seen anyone who does the entrance like him. And then again, in the way he speaks, he doesn't even talk about himself as a singular person. He says us, but he's only talking about himself. But he's speaking of it as like the Great Okan is an entity. Like Okan is nothing like Oka. And again, to watch what he's become, like I seen him when he was a young lion. So I never in the realm of my possibility, like I never thought when I saw Oka when he was a young lion, I never thought he would become just as great as he is. But he's great in the ring, and obviously, like you said, character work is top notch right now. And he showed how well rounded he was in the match with Jay White, and just how good that he really can do it. And in that fighting spirit, you hear it all the time here, and that's what New Japan is all about. He fought all the way to the very end until the Blade Runner was complete. So it was awesome. It was awesome.
Even with that, the grip was still in, and that's what's so important about it. It is a death grip. And so Jay White had to use that, to put Greater Khan down. But again, it told the story of it, which was just kind of so much fun as well. And D Block, Takagi beat our boy Will Ospreay in a match of the year candidate. I mean, this is on point from the first moment. Jaxie, I'll ask you about this because, Meltzer. My only issue here is Meltzer, all right? Because the thing is, I thought this was a great match. But he ranked this like 5.5 stars. My thing about this
did
is...
he actually?
Yeah, he did. So this is better than HBK versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And for me, yes, it was a great match, but I don't think it was on that level.
Yeah, I mean, Meltzer's opinions on certain matches and certain wrestlers just don't seem to, I don't seem to share the same opinion as him. So to be honest, I just take what he says and I just let it go out my other ear because if he doesn't really make much sense to me. And this was one of the best matches I've seen so far in the G1.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I said, it was a great match. Like Monty, even with your kind of New Japan glasses on, was this how good a match was this? Do you know what I mean? Was it really better than those classics we've seen at like WrestleMania?
From a pure in-ring standpoint, I can make arguments, but like as far as like Taker and HBK, like of course it had all types of storytelling that is ignored if you see what I'm trying to say. If you say that this is better than that, but again, it's just like what Jack said. I take Meltzer's opinion for exactly what they are. Opinion. A lot of people got them. Who cares? Most people, like, whatever. I know what I think, and at the end of the day, I know Shingo and Will Ospreay are wrestling soulmates. If you look at his 5-star matches, look at how many of them is for Ospreay. It seemed to be linked up with Shingo. It didn't matter where they was at. It don't matter if it's junior heavyweight. Doesn't matter if it's heavyweight. They do not miss. This, honestly, I don't necessarily know if this is better than some of the stuff they've done in the past. So I'm not gonna, say that it was greater than the greatest thing I've ever seen or whatever like that. But I will say that they have a better chemistry almost than anybody. Like they are made for each other, if you see what I'm trying to say, as far as like what they can do inside their ring. Shingo smash mouth style with mixed in with the finesse of Ospreay, but Ospreay is also very, very physical. And again, Shingo is also can be very explosive too. They just butt heads perfectly. And I think this is just another great encounter, man. I'm never disappointed when they go one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with Gina as well, this is why we're watching the G1. We might not be accustomed to everybody, but when we see someone like Shingo show out Ospreay, it's like, yeah, this is really good stuff,
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. Again, I can't remember everybody's name, but their faces obviously are in my memory. So if I do get names mixed up, then sorry, I'm still getting used to everyone. But again, it's just more insight for me to just learn and gravitate towards these new wrestlers I'm being introduced to.
Well, this is the thing, innit? You know, like the names and the finishing moves and the characters, that will come. But it's something to take attention to actually be like, no matter what language you're in, it's still good wrestling. You know, and I think that's the important thing to take away from it.
Yeah,
Sure,
they believe
you
in New
enjoy
Japan
it in
that
the same. You enjoy it in the same capacity, no matter what language is
Yes.
it's being based in. You enjoy it in the same capacity, no matter what, and it's just that's the lovable thing about wrestling.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, you know. Really, really good stuff. So, night 13, August 7th, C blocks, Aaron Hanare lost to Evil. A block, Tom Lawler got his second win versus Bad Luck Fale. D block, Phantasma. He won the. He might have won the arm wrestling, but Juice Robinson won the match. I don't know if I've laughed as hard in a wrestling match for a long time with the ELP and the Juice Robinson arm wrestling. And again, we've spoken about it tonight with the language kind of involved in the promos and this kind of shenanigans that happens. This is why New Japan's so much fun, Monty, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, for years it wasn't even factions in a lot of other promotions for me. So to see them fighting each other while being in the same faction, and again starting it off like they weren't going to take it seriously, and then as they continued to frustrate each other, it got more and more personal to the point to where Juice is, instead of, like you said, arm wrestling, now he's pile driving him on the stage. So again, the contrast there, but again, you don't have those elements. Like I said, it's completely different. Even when I mentioned earlier with Chase Owens and Jay White attempting to pay him off, all of those elements, because they are in the same organization. If Jay wins, they all win. At least that's what Jay wants them to think. But, you know, of course, everyone as the viewer can see, oh, no, Jay is just using you. Same thing goes in this situation. Juice Robinson riled ELP up and literally got him caught up with the first DQ finish. Again, by the way, a DQ finish in this situation that made complete sense. I was devastated for ELP the same way he was, and he sold it too. Just like, God damn it, I let him, you know, screw me. And that's exactly how it turned out. But a great slime ball victory for Juice.
The thing about that match as well is that it was so funny, but yet so serious as well at the same time. And it's the smallest thing, but I was absolutely wetting myself at Juice Robinson just grabbing the referee's hand, interlocking his fingers with him, and walking him back down to the ring like he was walking him across a crossing, like he was walking a child across a crossing or something. I found that part so hilarious. And it's like, again, only in New Japan I think that would work and just bring me to absolute tears over.
That's another sort of joyous thing that I've grown to sort of appreciate about New Japan Wrestling is how involved in different ways the ref ends up becoming in the match, especially when it comes to the Bullet Club. The Bullet Club really just take a lot of their frustration out on the ref, and it's just, you know, devastating to watch these refs kind of get bullied in the ring. But you cannot deny how highly entertaining it can be as well. And Juice and El Fantasma just did such a great job. Like, that match really stands out for me as one that I highly remember a lot. And it was because of the funny factors that came with the fact that it got so serious real quick, you know?
And the use of motherfucker in the wrestling ring. Juice has got it down. You know, there's not many wrestlers around that can use it.
He's like a little... He's got a whole batch of Tourette's the minute he walks into that third circle, doesn't he? Really?
It's just
that's not new, by the way. He was like that before he joined the club.
It's just, like you said, turned
like
up the character.
Yeah.
Just
he comes across like a rabid dog that you just can't control, and like the minute he flips, that's it. Like he's out for blood, you know.
Honestly, it was really, really good stuff. B block, Tomohiro Ishii lost to Chase Owens. A block, Okada versus Jonah. Well, Okada took Jonah to a different place. This was great. The crowd reacted big for this. And Jonah, I mean, what a shock. I mean, even in commentary, they mentioned Vader beating Inoki. Okada no more. If Jonah hasn't got a contract, sign in quick. Otherwise, Triple H will be on the phone. Jaxie, what performance from Jonah? What a shock. Okada losing, eh?
Definitely. I mean, this match went hard. Again, this is another match that really stood out for me. It was highly entertaining, but in ways that were just like purely sports related. Trying to watch Okada accomplish what everyone thinks is like unaccomplishable, which is like lifting Jonah up the way he did eventually when he did it. It was incredible to see, but overall perseverance just came through for Jonah. And as much as I love Okada, I have to give it to Jonah. That was such a great match and he deserved to pick up that win. Like now is the time for everyone to really be looking at Jonah and the talent that he actually has overall, so I hope that we get to see him get scouted and picked up. And I want to see more of him because of that match between both of those two. Just what a top-level match.
Yeah, Monty, you talked about earlier, people maybe getting upset in the first couple of nights or whatever it is, but this is a kind of statement sent, not just, for Jonah and Okada, but from New Japan to see what they see in Jonah, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it definitely means they want they want him to return. You don't beat not only not pinning a guy like Okada, but you don't do it in the way he did it in a memorable match. The way it turned out, everybody in that arena broke regulations because as soon as he was on the top rope to get ready to drop down the torpedo or tsunami, everyone just lost it collectively. I lost it too. So I was right along with them. Because even though I thought it was a possibility he could win, I'm always one of those guys like bet on Okada, and then when you're proven I'd rather be disappointed that Okada surprised me. I'd rather be surprised that Okada lost instead of disappointed that I went against Okada again for the billionth time, and he proved me again how things are meant to be. But again, this is classic Japanese wrestling. The Japanese superhuman battering the big foreign monster menace, like you mentioned with Vader and Inoki. So the people were eating it up, and that's why another reason you mentioned why you didn't see this side of Jonah or same thing with Archer. This presentation, Japan protects and appreciates and really love their big guy. They will do anything a big guy is always a threat in New Japan Pro Wrestling. If you have size and you can work, you will be loved for years over there. It's in the history, like you mentioned, with Vader, Stan Hansen, and a lot of the greats who stepped foot in Japan in the past to be in this role. So I think New Japan, like you mentioned, can see Jonah fitting in perfectly as this next great foreign menace who could be someone standing opposite of Okada for the next few years.
Or even someone like Giant Bernard, back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said,
the
big outsider, so to speak. We'll have a look at the table at this moment in time because Jonah in A block has now joined Kazuchika Okada on top on 6 points. Jeff Cobb, Lance Archer, Tom Lawyer, Bad Luck Fale on 4 points. Toriano on 2. B block, Jay White 8 points, 4 wins from 4. Tamatonga Sanada, Teacher Chase Owens on 4 points. Great Okada, Mahirishi on 2. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Zack Sabre Jr. on 6 points. Goto, Naito, Eva on 4. And R.A. Kenta on 2. That's C block. And then D block, Finlay on 6. And then Shingo, Will, Yuri Takahashi, Yoshihashi, and Juice Robinson on 4. El Phantasma on 2. What does this mean, Monty, at this moment in time? Because obviously Finlay leading D block. What would happen if it ended in kind of the points were equal towards the end and we ended on a tie? Yeah. How was it decided?
At least from my understanding, the way Kevin Kelly and them were trying to explain it is that we would have, I think, all of them in I want to say it's going to sound like a battle royal, which is very rare, but at the end of everyone who was tied was going to have to figure this out. We're going to have to match up tiebreakers basically, and either way it go, they were going to have a defined winner. Even if they worked the entire block to death, just trust me, it was going to be a congested mess that they would have figured out. But this was never before seen though. Never had a block been even when they did the 4 block last time, nowhere close to this type of confusion.
Well, I'll tell you something else that was quite shocking as well. Was the announcement about Jay White's status for the next 2 G1 events. He was scheduled to wrestle, but he's been affected by heat stroke symptoms and removed as a caution. Also, he's undertaken COVID antigen testing and has returned negative. Again, I don't know if it was because he's missing actual, block action, but if he couldn't make it, would he actually be forfeit, or is this kind of part of the storyline? Because Japan have worked me before with this.
Yeah, it was legit, I believe, because if you looked at some of those arenas, they were filtering, like they looked hot. You could just look at the match and some of the times, just like how drenched in sweat some of the guys were. It wasn't just from the match. And a lot of their backstage comments, they talked about just how hot it has been throughout this entire tour. Japan is very, very humid. So you can just think about like that. It's just musky and just very, 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 like just a tough time if you're not necessarily, if depending on how situations go. And it was ridiculously hot on some of those dates. So I believe it was legit. The thing is, I don't think he had any block match. If he would have had a block match, then yes, he would have had the forfeit, and he would have. It depends. Like he would have been out, and his block was done on those dates, the specific dates that he missed. Then he was going to have to forfeit those, and they were going to have to find a way for it to make sense. Because kind of like Naito did when he was out with his injury early in the first in the first round or his first match of last year's G1. But in this particular case, I think he was only missing tag matches. So I think they kind of wanted to explain to the people, in attendance why on this particular tour you weren't going to get a chance to see Jay White. So I think that's all it was. But other than that, if he had block matches, it would have been trouble. But it ended up happening where he had a couple tag matches in a row instead.
Well, that's not too bad then. We move on night 14, August 9th. D block, Yoshihashi lost to Yujiro Takahashi. B block, Sanada beat Chase Owens. In the A block, Jonah versus Archer. I mean, the striking was off the chart. Seeing these two, it wasn't pretty, but boy, it was fun. Jonah had it won, but Archer didn't give it up. I mean, again, Jaxie, am I being harsh? But Jonah fucked it again for himself here. You know, another match won, but it decides to fuck around and gets caught by Archer. You know, it just pisses me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's like, you take one step forward, but yet 2 steps back, Yeah. It kind of felt, it felt like it undermined the fact that, less than 24 hours ago, I can't remember how long between the other G1, but when he beat Okada and then this, so it was kind of like a disappointing one, I'd say, like not the match itself, but just overall the outcome,
Yeah, I think about that because I'm thinking like Jonah, like Yano, you dropped the ball there, but come on, carry on the momentum, and again, it's like goddamn motherfucker, turn into juice again, like I said, which is a shame.
I think they wanted to protect both of them, too. Also, I think that's why we ended up with that finish, protecting AEW,
Monty.
Archer, and then not getting Jonah pinned. They don't want Jonah to win, but they definitely didn't want Jonah to win. Well, Gato's not concerned with what you want.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, look, they should.
They don't care what you want.
They should. It should be New James Pro Wrestling, and should be about everything I want. All right?
You can book Jonah all you want in James Pro Wrestling.
Oh my God, he'd be the champ. C block. Kenta's bad luck continued losing Tetsuya Naito. So the table just A block, Okada, Archer, and Jonah are linked on top with 6 points each. On B block, JY is clearing the lead on 8. In C block, Naito, Zack Sabre Jr. and Tanahashi are joined on 6 points. And in D block, Finlay and Takahashi on 6. Ospreay, Hashi, Shingo, and Juice all on 4. And like we said, we hope it doesn't finish like that. So night 15, August 10th, D block, David Finlay, who was on a roll, lost to El Phantasmo. Both now have 3 wins each. Now B block, Tama Tonga's gone under the radar for me in this one. But I will say, Jaxie, you did mention him. He's been on fire, and he beat our hero, and of course yours, the great O'Khan. But Tama Tonga really showing out at the moment in time.
Yeah, I really felt like he was starting to shine. And again, I mentioned it sort of previously when we were first discussing the G1 aspect and how much I was enjoying the commentary sort of giving us brief history and background on what had been currently going on with those wrestlers. So for someone like Tama Tonga, finding out about sort of like Jay White and such all turning their back on him, it was kind of watching an underdog story with Tama Tonga, and each match he was in, he just continues to get better and better. He's got an awesome entrance music that I really enjoy listening to every single time, and he's just got that look, of a star. So every time I do see him, he kind of looks like the Red Power Ranger. So it's great. I've really been enjoying watching Tama Tonga.
Yeah, really, really good in the G1. And C block action, it took Zack Sabre Jr. 44 seconds to beat Evil. It proves he can do either. To be fair, when you sit down, it's like...
What a joke, Evil. What a joke.
Zack Sabre Jr. is that I'm thinking I'm going to get myself sorted out, get some snacks, because this is going to be like a 25-minute match. Sit down and it's over already from the flash pin. And I'm going, for fuck's sake. You have to go back with Ryan.
He had a young lion walk out there, by the way, for his entrance. Poor Owe gets destroyed because he's setting him up for Zach to come out there. That was great, though. It was great fun because he's evil. Anytime anyone embarrasses evil, I'm happy. Good job, man.
And in A block action, Jaxie's Okada didn't make the same mistake with Tom Lawler that he did with Jonah and out-wrestled the former filthy UFC man. Tom has shown on strong. He's ready-made for Japan. And I might have one up on you here because I've seen a bit more filthy Tom than you have because obviously I watch Strong.
Yes, it's true. I don't get a chance to see much Strong. I honestly came away so impressed with him after watching him over here again, like you mentioned, against people that I'm more familiar with. So it was kind of good to finally get a chance to see. I've already watched him work, and I knew about his UFC and MMA background, so I know he's legit. But actually getting a chance to watch him up close with other favorites, it was great to finally get a chance to see what the hoopla is all about. In the ring, he reminds me of Matt Riddle, but he's definitely completely different. Like, they similar because of the striking and the MMA, of course, but like with his submissions and his technical expertise, I really, really like Lawler, and I hope that he continues to come over to Japan. I think this tour is going to be a good for him. I think he'll be back. I think the people in Japan really started to like him as the tournament continued on.
Yeah, without doubt. And then C block, Hiroku Goto beat Hiroshi Tanahashi to go level on points for him. So just quick look at the table. A block, Okada in the lead with 8. Archer and Jonah on 6 points there. B block, Tama Tonga now joined Jay White with 8 points each as well. C block, Zack Sabre Jr. leave of 8 to Tanahashi 6. D block, you got Finley and Takahashi on 6 with the rest on 4. So night 16, August 13th. C block, Aaron Henare lost to Kenta via submission. A block, Jeff Cobb beat Toru Yano. D block, Shingo defeated Yuri Takahashi to go level on points with him. D block, Yoshihashi lost to our boy Will Ospreay. B block, Jay White battled Heatstroke, that's not the name of his opponent, and kept his perfect score and unbeaten record alive by beating Taichi. And then night 17, we got D block, Yoshihashi beat David Finlay to send D block to a 5-man tie. Now, has that ever happened before, Monty, a 5-man tie in a G1?
Not specifically 5. I mean, maybe at moments in a time, like moments, it's been like 5 people with the same point total. But this close and like seeming like it could possibly end up being a complete tie for the entire block. I think this is close, definitely as close as I've seen it get since I've been watching. But if it has been, it was years ago because this is the closest it's been in a while. And I just have to say this. Yujiro, I know you're Bullet Club. I love Yujiro. He's Tokyo Pimp. I hope all you guys got a chance to meet Peter a couple times. Wonderful Peter from Yujiro's manager is who I'm talking about. But anyway, Yujiro being at the top of any block was just hilarious to me. But I must say that the D block was just a complete mess. But this is the furthest I've ever seen them go when it comes to having this many like possibilities still on the table in a block. One block.
It was crazy. I was panicking. At this point. B block, our hero Greater Khan beats Aichi. Say in the G1, I suppose there's always next year. A block, Tom Lawler got his biggest win in his last match against Jeff Cobb, which was a bit of a surprise. C block, Hiroshi Tanahashi lost to Kenta. Great match, but Tanahashi is out of the G1. So, Gina, as we get towards the end, there was a couple of big shocks here. And like I said, the man that main event of Forbidden Door is out of the G1.
Yeah, for sure, shocking. But to be honest, with the way that the G1 started to kind of close up, I wasn't surprised by the final two for that being announced, because in my eyes, I couldn't see anybody else being in the final two apart from Ospreay and Okada. So I wasn't too shocked or disappointed in a way, because, like I said, Will Ospreay was one that I was really gravitating towards in the G1 anyway.
Yeah, I've admitted about that. I think what we our picks at the start to where we are now, I think it's kind of. I mean, would it be fair to say, Gina, that's kind of gone the way you might have thought, like you said, with who would be in these positions at this point in time?
Yeah, for sure. Again, at one point I did think maybe Naito would be up there in the final, just because, again, I saw him as a bit of an underdog. I didn't really see him as a formidable candidate when the G1 first started, and watching his growth. And when I say his growth, I know that others might not see it that way, but for me as a new fan, watching it, for his growth throughout that G1 tournament, I kind of was like, oh, maybe he might get into that final, you know? So, but to be honest, I think the rest of it went the way I assumed it would.
Yeah, well, incredibly, we've only got 3 nights left now. We're going to start night 18, which is August 16th. I love the intros, and we talked about it earlier, but it does make me feel like I'm watching something different, and it's a catchy song. I don't know who sang it. Monty, get me the copy of that and send it over. I love that as my Christmas present. I do not like that at all. But it means that we have made it to the final night of the block with a G1 Climax 32. And the only thing left to do, guys, is punch our tickets to the semi-finals. But before we do that, we're in a legendary Budokan Hall, and even I've heard of that. Budokan, I should say. I pronounced it wrong. Even though I know how to pronounce it, Monty, I still pronounced it wrong reading it. You believe that. Budokan Hall. And the amount of matches I've seen happen there as well. Damn you. So here's a refresher, though, on everything that can happen here tonight. So A block is going to be the winner of Kazuchika Okada versus Lance Archer. So whoever wins that wins A block. B block, the winner of Switchblade Jay White versus Tama Tonga will win B block. C block, if Goto defeats Evil, then Goto wins C block. If Evil defeats Goto, then the winner of Zack Sabre Jr. versus Naito will win C block. I think that's right, Monty, but you're going to help me out with this one. D block, if Shingo defeats ELP, he wins D block. If Phantasmo defeats Shingo and Will Ospreay defeats Juice, then Ospreay wins D block. But if both Phantasmo and Robinson win, then D block ends in a 7-way
in the tie. Yeah. A miss, like I said. What a block.
I would have kind of been intrigued to actually think, see what that would have happened, you know?
That's what I'm saying. All this, permanence and looking at it, and it's just near enough the entire block. Anybody can win. Which, again, it proves how much fun it is. So we're going to find out now. So D block, we start with Will Ospreay versus Juice. Will jumped him to start. We'll see a lot of this tonight. Pile drive on the floor and a friction in the ring. Couldn't keep Ospreay down. Robson went for the rock slide, but Ospreay landed on his feet, hit the lead to win the match and get his physical belt back for the US title and eliminate everyone in D block outside of Shingo. Operation Chaos, which was a nickname for the much discussed 7-way tie, is unfortunately now a no-go. Jaxie, what do you think? Gina, what do you think here? Because Will Ospreay's shown his anger on Juice for the US title debacle. He's showing different sides, isn't he?
Definitely showing different sides, but I kind of liked it because he seems like that kind of unpredictable wrestler where you're going to get a different side to him once you've kind of pissed him off to a point or, dug really deep under his skin that you've just wound him up and you're just going to get a different type of attitude from him. So it was really fun to see and be, witness to and watch that grow, especially because Juice has been asking for it. He's been an absolute prick throughout the whole thing. He really has. And so it was kind of like, I need to see Will unleash his anger on Juice, really. Because I also want to slap him in the face, but I don't have that luxury.
Well, I'll tell you something as well. That kick from
What
Will...
a loser Juice is, by the way.
I agree. I definitely agree.
It's just two great wrestlers, and the crowd was pleased Will won. Like I said, the crowd can't make a lot of noise, but you can hear them and they go, like the excitement of having Will win. So up next was Shingo versus ELP. Monty, your man here, the former last year was the champion.
IWGP.
Was the IWGP champ, and now if he wins against ELP, he will take it as leader of the block. ELP wrestled this match clean as a sheet. I was shocked. And ended up beating Shingo with a CR3, a pile drive out the CR2 position. And now with a clean fall over a guy who has main evented Wrestle Kingdom. Looks like he's going to have a full heavyweight run, which we have discussed. And another thing, Monty, I'm throwing a lot of things at you here, man. Shingo losing, but they told me Shingo used to be a junior heavy. Like, what the fucking hell? Show me some of that action.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Best of the Super Junior final. Him and Will Ospreay. That's a classic match I'm talking about. That might have been better than what they did in this G1. Like, yes, they were juniors. Shingo has always been by the way, while he was a junior, a lot of the juniors did not believe he was a junior.
No, he's just not.
But really what happened is he gained like 5 pounds and he was in the heavyweight division.
Fucking hell.
He didn't anyway, he's like you said, just sturdy, husky, just a very, very solid built guy. So when he was in the ring with a lot of the people who can fly and mix in their styles with Shingo perfectly, like ELP, which, by the way, ELP be doing this, it was a shock because, again, I'm used to Shingo pulling these victories out, but I'm not surprised at all. I've been high on ELP since day one. When I watched him, and at the time, him and Ospreay hated each other. They probably still do, but I've watched him and Ospreay tear it up on many different occasions when they were both in the junior division a few years back. And I've always been impressed with ELP before he even got a chance to show people in Impact what he could do. So seeing him here and watching him mesh styles and be able to survive the physicality, because that's what they talk about with junior heavyweights in the heavyweight division. Can Hiromu, can a lot of these smaller guys, Will Ospreay put a lot of muscle on so he could be able to prove people that he could do it at a top level. Can they, because it's not so much about can they actually work with the big guys, but can they take all of that punishment? Can they really show fighting spirit and keep going like a Shingo or like a lot of the heavyweights do? And I think ELP showed in this match that he does have that extra gear that he can go into, but I will warn him now. And I do think he should be respected no matter the weight class, kind of like a Romo is at this point. Just be respected no matter who he's fighting. But ELP, please slow down saying you're Shingo's daddy. I'm trying to tell you guys now. I understand he's hyped. It was a big victory, but Shingo will not take that lightly. it won't end well for him long term. But to the victor goes the bragging rights, man. This was great.
Well, like I said, I dig the jacket for ELP and the whole look. Bullet Club helped the United Empire here. You know, we talk about Shingo first, delivering banger after banger, but it shows at this point in time, you know, ELP couldn't win the group after Will's victory, if I'm right, and still went out there and showed that the match mattered rather than kind of, you know, losing anything like that. And I think had it in his hands. And the fallout from this is how he responds now, because we've talked about it, you know, last year as champion, and now having the you know, having it in his hand, the victory to go through, and you might look at that, and as we've talked about Tanahashi, Ishii, other wrestlers, that might be part of the storyline of can he now recapture what he has, you know, and what it means is that Will Ospreay wins D-Block, so the final stand is Will Ospreay on 8 points. The block winner, ELP, Takahashi, Shingo, Yoshihashi, and Finlay on 6 points. And Juice Robinson, like we said, is the loser of this group on 4 points. On to C block, Evil versus Iriku Goto. Evil wins, eliminating Goto and making Naito Sabre winner the take all for C blocks. For me, these are two guys I'm getting accustomed with. And what I will say, if you're watching Japanese wrestling for the first time, this is not the match to start. You know, it's just not. It's
not this version of Evil. No, not this version of Evil. Please don't start on this version of Evil. I promise you. I only so hard on Evil because he used to be the definition of fighting spirit. He was badass, but he don't even try anymore. And with Dick Togo there and just the constant interruptions, yeah, it's not necessarily a good start. Goto is all about his samurai fighting spirit, but it don't matter when you fighting 3 people for the most part when you're going against Evil. So I understand that. That's a great point. Do not start with Evil.
Don't do that. Don't do it to yourself. Next we had Zack Sabre Jr. versus Naito. Like we talk about, this is for everything. Sabre eliminated Naito from the 2018 G1 Climax and took him out of the 2021 G1 after one match. Sabre beat Naito in the New Japan Cup final in March in time, but not this time. Naito pins Zack with a Polvo de la Estrella flash pin to win C block and get his payback. Jaxie, Zack's tantrum lasted longer than the match. Was this a surprise?
I mean, I'd say yes, it was a surprise for me, only because I'm not very used or accustomed to how Zack Sabre Jr. is. But this definitely was like just a real sore loser moment, you know, and he threw all of his like toys out the pram. It was quite entertaining to watch.
I'll tell you what's funny is, again, them nearly breaking character at the end with Zack held the chair and Naito was throwing the ice pack and actually doing baseball.
Yeah, I thought he was going to do it, to be honest. I genuinely thought he was going to like hit it. It would have been funny to have seen that.
It's great. And the other thing, and it just shows you how good the G1 is, and this is why Monty was maybe a little bit more confident earlier, is Naito lost his first 2 G1 matches, you know, and to come back and find himself as block winner shows you how much can change. He ends on block winner. Well, this is the thing. He's same points, 8 points, but I guess it's a win-loss record, Monty. That would make more sense as well, yes?
Yeah, 4-2. Look at it that way, I guess. Yeah, exactly. He won 4 straight. The great rivalry continues. They have such a great, I think it's friendly, but it's not friendly at all because Zack takes pleasure in injuring my boy Naito, unfortunately. But Naito is just very good at poking the bear. He's the pettiest wrestler alive. I love it completely. And this what this was, man. Getting a measure of payback against a guy who made him forfeit the whole tournament last year, man. Like you mentioned. So it may not have been like a match or a classic match, but, you know, after warning us, by the way, Zack, after he lost to Tanahashi with his arm under the rope, he was gracious in defeat. He was respectful to Tanahashi and everything. But then he found out the next night that his arm was under the rope. He said he'll never be gracious again. He'll never be gracious in defeat again. So this is what you get when he loses to Naito. In shocking fashion. You get the greatest temper tantrum ever. which is a Zack Sabre Jr. staple. He's a renowned sore loser.
Oh, without doubt. You love to see it as well. So, yeah, Naito on 8, winning the group. Kenta, Tanahashi, Evil, Goto on 6, Hanare on 2 points. And the semi-final set. And for the first time ever, Will Ospreay versus Tetsuya Naito. Now, Monty, before we get to that match, how excited were you when you found out it was going to be these two guys in the semi-final?
I was very excited, mostly because I knew it would be the first time. I wasn't at first. I was like, really? Have they never really did it? But I was like, oh, that makes sense. They probably never fought 1-on-1, so it makes sense. You know, he had a great rivalry with Shingo. He broke my boy Sonata orbital bomb. My wife is still mad about that, Ospreay. And he's beaten Bushi numerous times. And when he was a junior heavyweight, he's fought Hiromu. He's went down the entire list of LIJ. So it's about time he makes it to the boss, to the top guy in the group. And I was very, very excited because, again, I know what Ospreay is all about, but I also know what Naito can do, specifically with people in that top tier of New Japan like Ospreay is. So I was ready, especially in a block final, because I knew they were going to get all the time they needed. So I was hyped, man. Very excited.
Right. Well, B block then, we had Ishii versus Sanada, and this wasn't to win the block or to eliminate Sanada. It wasn't about hatred or getting back at someone. It was strictly pride. And it's always been about pride with Ishii. I guess it could be a poetic way for the Stone Pitbull to maybe go out. This was a good match, getting the victory. But rumour is Ishii, this might be his last G1, but it could be up to him, you know. The only man to beat Jay White these past 12 months. But that might be it for Ishii. Monty, personally, would you want to see him again next year in the G1 or give a chance to maybe some other talent?
Honestly, the way Ishii goes, because he's just so nonstop, and I don't really think he's lost a step in the ring. I would love to see Ishii back. I'm always looking forward to his to his matches every year, because I know it's going to be some of the most physical, and it's the definition of fighting spirit. He pulls the best out of everyone he fights, and he makes sure it's going to be a war. It doesn't matter where he's at in the world. He's going to bring out the fighting spirit in whoever he's fighting, and I think that's always going to be valued highly from me when it comes to Ishii. But honestly, he's been doing this a long time. I understand if he's slowing down. It is guys on Strong. It is other guys across the roster, across the world, who probably could take advantage of this spot if Ishii was to be done. But in all honesty, for me personally, I do not want this to end. I view him and Goto. They're very similar. Goto's won G1s in the past. He's won everything except the World Heavyweight Championship. So I've been rooting for guys like him and Goto they probably won't ever go over that threshold, but I'm always rooting for them to succeed. So again, it would hurt me to not see Ishii, because I got so accustomed to those Stone Pitbull matches. But honestly, if this is what he needs, and I can understand taking time off or being done with this because of how much he has been through over the years. But yeah, man, I honestly wouldn't mind if Ishii came back.
Well, like I said, it was a good match, and he's the only man to beat Jay White in the past 12 months. Speaking of the champ, well, Jay White faced Tama Tonga, and Tama needing the victory to win the block. The finishing stretch here was good, with White fighting off the gun stun as much as he could for Tama hit the Bloody Sunday with Jada holding Gato back. A gun stun followed and scored the win and the block for Tonga. And let's not forget, Tonga was kicked out of the Bullet Club by Jay White. He gets his revenge and pins the world champion. Jaxie, your man here now, a block winner. He beats the champion as well in a match that actually meant something. But again,
yeah, I mean,
you know, the champion's in trouble, but not lost the title. It's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, look what I said before, you know, about this whole sort of underdog type storyline with Tama, and it just kind of proved that it can work even in this situation, even when, you know, it's a G1 tournament, so it's not remotely just something that's surrounding this storyline, but look at how well it's really played out. You know, having this sort of underdog who was kicked out of his group, you know, you probably thought, you know, he was going to be by himself, but he built himself up and now managed to come out as the winner of his block. It's it was incredibly exciting. The match was exciting. The fact that he had won over Jay White was exciting because you actually could just think to yourself, well, could Tama, if Tama's pinned him here, could he get a potential shot at that IWGP, you know, sort of after anything that goes down at Wrestle Kingdom. So, you know, there's so much room to carry on whatever is going on between these two outside of G1. So there's an exciting aspect from there, but also just to know that he was going to the semi-finals. For me, like I said at the beginning, I had both Okada and Tama Tonga as like two favorites of mine. So to see them both go through to the semi-finals was really good, actually. I enjoyed that.
Without doubt. And incredibly, Jay White has never won a final night G1 match. To know that just shows that's an incredible statistic. But yeah, Tama Tonga finishes as block winner with Jay White, both on 10, but obviously with Tonga getting that. And it's incredible to think in that group, those two guys win every match bar one. Sonado on 6, Great Khan, Taichi, Chase Owens, and Ishii on 4. And then A block, Jonah versus Bad Luck Fale. Well, Jonah wins it with the Tsunami Splash, or Torpedo, as they're calling it now. Jonah hasn't been pinned in New Japan. If only Yano hadn't fucked him. I mean, Jonah was a monster, but for me, Fale just looked like he had too many burgers. Gina, I'm being out of order there, but, you know, Fale is a monster. I don't know. Jonah, yes, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Fale is huge, though. Like, I think even he had a match with Lance, didn't he? And they just looked like beasts compared to each other. And especially because a lot of the other New Japan wrestlers are quite short. It's kind of hard to miss those guys, you know. But I don't know. He was kind of in my background, but he did kind of like shine in his own light for me, Fale. So I did end up like sort of enjoying every match he had.
Yeah, I wasn't that impressed with him. Like I said, Archer and Jonah for me, they're kind of like real monsters, and Fale's just like, yeah, all right. But talk about Jonah, he left his mark on this year's.
You just literally said that with your nose turned up.
Well, for me, you know, that's what I thought. But Jonah made his mark with wins over Jeff Cobb and Okada. I mean, he's level with Okada, but he's lost to Archer. He can't win. But he doesn't know that, and Kevin Kelly nearly has a heart attack on commentary because he doesn't want to tell him that it wouldn't happen, or maybe it would. Maybe they'll change it just for him. So it comes down to this: it's Okada versus Archer, and of course, if Okada gets the win, he wins. Archer is 6-0 versus Okada, so I'm not sure which way it's going to go. But we get a blackout Archer, but Okada caught him in a crucifix pin for near fall. The money clip couldn't put Archer away, but a combination of a landslide and a rainmaker would. Okada wins the monster block and looks to go back-to-back in the G1. Jaxie, what do you think of Okada versus Archer? Because again, talk about Archer being treated differently, and Okada is the biggest guy in Japan as well. This was, you know, a match to showcase both.
Yeah, definitely. I think you could tell how serious Lance was taking this, even all throughout his entrance. You know, it wasn't as sort of scattered, so to speak. When he came out, he stood in the middle of that ring and he was just focused, you know, waiting on Okada to come out from the very beginning. This match, for me, even though I know I was team Okada, going into it, I was a little bit worried because, you know, Lance Archer is being featured in a different way as to what he's been featured like on AEW. So there was real chance that Okada was going to lose to him, you know. Lance Archer pretty much throughout the first half of this match was like sort of dominating over Okada and really wearing him down. So it was a really good show of skill. Both men are really tall. So there were just some like pretty powerful moves that both men did that just came across so well. I enjoyed watching this match. I thought it was a great match between both of them. But overall, I'm really glad with the outcome, obviously, being Okada as the winner.
Right, that and the semi-final, your two picks as well, Okada versus Tonga.
I didn't expect that, but I definitely was very happy to see that it was those two against each other because I kind of didn't know how it was going to go down, especially with, again, the whole underdog story with Tama Tonga. It's like, can he actually do the inevitable and beat JY and Okada? Like, there was that big question there.
Right, well, the final standings for A block: Okada on 10 points, Jonah on 8, which is fantastic for his first G1. Archer, Tom, and Cobb on 6. Toriano on 2. Against Jonah, he got those points. And bad luck, Farley. I'm over it. So, like we said, your G132 semi-finals are Okada versus Tonga and Aito versus Ospreay. Tama Tonga beat in last year's G1, which is Okada's lone loss in that tournament. And we talked about Naito versus Ospreay, first time ever. So let's get to it. Night 19, August 17th, semi-final time. Kachikiga, Okada versus Tama Tonga. We see Tama unleash a flurry of offense but gets stopped by Okada. Okada locks in money clip, but Tama fights to the ropes. Okada continues for the money clip, but Tama keeps coming back with gunsome attempts. Tama hits some bats but can't follow up. Okada continues to break up Tama's offense with big kicks and lariats. Okada finally comes back with a landslide and a rainmaker to put Tama Tonga down in 19 minutes. Gina, what do you think of this match? Because I thought it was really good. And a question actually for everybody. Actually, Gina, sorry. I'll ask you first. Is Okada's jacket red or white? Because I swear to God, as he's coming out, it's white. And then when we get close, it's red.
I mean, it's red initially because I have worked with materials and I am a seamstress. It's the play of the material that they've got. It plays with the lights. So the lights make it look white, but then the closer it gets, and once the lights turn off, you see its original color, which is like the red peachy color. But yeah, so that's what that is.
Genius.
But I think it's really clever as well because when the light hits it and it looks white, you actually see the words Rainmaker on the back of his coat. But then, like when the lights aren't on it and it's pink, you're hardly able to make it out because of the red lettering mixing well with the pink. So it's a play on and use of the lights. It's really cleverly done, actually. I think is a wonderful jacket.
Kevin Kelly didn't know what a GCSE was as well, which is quite funny.
Yeah, I chuckled to that as well.
Sorry, I just couldn't help it. But the story for me was, could Tama hang with the very best in Japan? It felt kind of like a football game with a smaller team who wouldn't win, but shows they can compete. Would that be fair, Gina, in this one? Because was Okada really in trouble?
Not really, because I kind of was like, no, he's got this in the win. But there were some spots that it's like, oh wait, did I make too much of a presumption about him? So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say like that much, but I did kind of have it in the back of my mind that he had this. So.
Well, he did, and he's through to the final, and he'll face the winner of the secondary final, which Tetsuya Naito versus Will Ospreay, first time ever. We've seen Naito send Ospreay into the corner and hit an avalanche poison Rana for a near fall, which is a lot more exciting than how I made it sound. But Ospreay counters Destino with a tombstone slam, hits Hidden Blade, and Naito counters Stormbreaker with Destino. Ospreay comes back and hits a huge hook kick. Love that move. Naito counters Oz Cutters. Ospreay hits an elbow to the head. Naito ducks Hidden Blade and hits Destino for a near fall. Ospreay counters low and hits Hidden Blade, and then the Stormbreaker for the pinfall in 21 minutes. For the first time ever, they gelled straight away. Monty, what do you think of this match?
Man, this is insane. It flew by also, by the way. It was like, at one point, they were just going, I was like, listen, 15 minutes is passed by. Like, really? It's been 15 minutes? So I was really into it, man. Their styles just go so well together. Naito is one of the old. That's the reason why I love Destino. It's why it's my favorite finish. It can be countered. He can literally counter almost anything into the Destino. It seems like that's just how well he set it up. And Ospreay just played off that perfectly. Ospreay has a bad neck, so Naito went after that neck relentlessly, which is really played into his hands because that's how a lot of Naito's moves is all about. Working your neck and dropping you on your head so he can set you up for the Destino. And, Ospreay just being his relentless self. The pacing was great. the building erupted when he reversed that Stormbringer into the Destino. And you could just tell that, okay, we're ready for it. And just as they continued on and they got into that final sequence with the Hidden Blade to the Stormbringer, which is a undeniable combination that Ospreay rarely, when he hits the Hidden Blade and he goes into the Stormbringer, it's pretty much always done. And so again, just show you how well they protect their moves and use, because he beat a lot of people just straight up with the Hidden Blade. But anyway, awesome stuff again from both guys. I will never say Ospreay didn't deserve this victory because he is a machine. He's still so young. And after a match like that, it's really hard for me to complain. But I have to say this lastly. I'm not sure what Tetsuya Naito did to Gato, who caused the shots. I don't know what he did to him personally, but between having his Wrestle Kingdom 8 main event taken away from him, between his Wrestle Kingdom moment when he came up short against Okada in Wrestle Kingdom 12, and Wrestle Kingdom 14 when he finally won the big one, and then Kenta comes out right after that, ruins his roll call, so he can't call out his entire faction on the biggest stage of them all. Then you get the pandemic after that. Then you have what Evil did to him, taking his titles and just being trash. And then you got the injury last year with Zach, and then you get this loss right here. I hate to say this, but I said it on my show. I said it here. My favorite's time on top may be over, and I think that's what hurt me more so when he lost this match, more so than anything.
I'm glad you're not letting it get to you.
No, it got to me. You want to talk about Yano? Yano surprises everybody. Naito never being able to win the big one is an agonizing story. That's another reason why he's my guy. But it's okay. I leave it alone. Great match. I love this, and Ospreay, after a match like that, I can never hate on what Ospreay brings to the table.
Well, like I said, we know we're going to get Okada versus Ospreay, so let's get to it. Night 20th, the last night, August 18th. It's finally the final. Just a little bit of extra before the main event. We had Tama Tonga and Kushida defeating the Bullet Club, Jay White and Taiji Ishimori. It sets the stage. We talked about this on the G1 as well, but even this match sets the stage for two big matches. The heels are great and both champs and both ripped as fuck. Like I said, Ishimori is just like a smaller Jay White. He's fucking mental. They're perfect, you know. But Kushida did pin the champion. So, Monty, please tell me we're going to get Jay White versus Tama Tonga for the IWGP title, and of course Taiji Ishimori Kushida at some point.
I'm just going to go. That's usually what happens. Usually when a champion is pinned or definitively beaten by someone who was viewed as a contender, like Tama Tonga, especially specifically in the G1. Usually when the champion loses a match like that, they will have to defend that belt against the guy that beat them. So, yes, I think we would definitely see Tama and Jay sooner than later. And I think the same goes for Taiji Ishimori and Kushida. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much guaranteed. Kind of like the way I feel like maybe Dave or either Shingo will definitely be battling for Ospreay's belt at some point. So that's usually how it works. When a champion loses, specifically in a straight up contest, but it can be in a tag match also. When a champion gets pinned, a lot of times they're showing you that the guy who pinned him is usually next in line.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking about next in line, and the G1 is all for that moment at Wrestle Kingdom when you can face the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. We know the champion is Jay White, but who will be the winner of the G1? We're going to find out right now. Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. In the previous 7 matches, Okada's won 6. It doesn't matter because the aerial assassin had a strategy, and that was to integrate the offense of past Okada foils into this match. He used the Styles Clash, obviously from AJ Styles, Hiroshi Tanahashi's High Fly Flow, and Omega's V-Trigger, even attempting Kenny's One-Wigged Angel to an audible gasp from a crowd that actually weren't allowed to.
Even I gasped.
It's been a while.
So loud at that audacity that he almost did that. I was like, what?
It's crazy stuff. But again, Okada, this is big match. Okada didn't hold anything back. The finish came after Ospreay's flurry of other people's finisher. And a huge rainmaker from Okada failed to secure a win. A striking battle that started with both men exhausted on their knees led to an explosive exchange of counters until Okada finally countered a hidden blade with a Cobra Flosion and delivered one more thunderous rainmaker to claim victory. In addition, to put them in the back-to-back club. Okada now alone in second place on an all-time G1 victories list with 4. Only Chono has more with 5, and he's got a contract for the main event shot at 17. Jaxie, first, we're going to get everybody's thoughts on the final because he worked so hard. Jaxie, what were your thoughts? Ospreay versus Okada.
This was an awesome match. Definitely final, definitely a top contender for one of the best matches of G1 for being the final. It could have gone either way, if I'm truly honest. There were times that I honestly didn't think that Okada was going to kick it out. So there were just some high moments for both men. Of course, I'm very happy with the outcome being Okada winning it. But I feel like I kind of presumed that he was going to win, and it comes from sort of like the knowledge of knowing that Will Ospreay and Aussie Open were due to be fighting in AEW, so I didn't know how long they would be going on in that tournament, and I didn't know whether or not that would impact him being able to attend other events for New Japan. So there was part of me that kind of thought that Okada was going to win due to that as well. But either way, I thought the match was great, and I look forward to seeing Jay White and Okada at Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, like I said, Okada showed why he's in Japan. But Gina, what do you think of this final? Because Will Ospreay is a guy that maybe, hasn't had the attention that he deserves. And I think we all know how good Okada is, but Will Ospreay is he could possibly be the best wrestler in the world right now.
For sure. I mean, again, I had never heard of him until he showed up on AEW. I can't remember which AEW he first turned up on, but I had no idea who he was, and Jaxie had to explain who he was to me. And even then I was like, oh, okay, but you didn't see him that often. He would just turn up here or then. And then watching him in this G1 just entirety, I think he just needs to be elevated so much more. Like, people need to give him more credit for how he wrestles, his personality, everything. I think he's just a full package here and very underrated right now. So I hope that this G1 has helped to elevate that.
I think we're at, like I said, G1, we're going to get everybody's thoughts on that. But Monty, what were your thoughts? Because like I said, we're here with your baby, basically, watching Okada versus Ospreay in the final, and boy, did it deliver,
it was so funny to hear, that, like, to hear Ospreay viewed as an underdog. The only reason why I say that is because he's not only has he done this for a long time, but you can't tell him that. He's been saying he's the best wrestler in the world for like, I don't know how long at this point, and he's just always been a cocky little, but he's so good at his damn job. And Ospreay was looking for his first clean victory over Okada here ever. Like, he's beat him, but he's never beaten him clean. And when they were in Chaos together, Okada, looked at him like a little brother. Okada, 7 years ago in 2015, Okada took a liking to him after having a match. And that's one of the biggest reasons why Ospreay is even in New Japan, is because of how well him and Okada got on at first. And but Ospreay, as time went on, was becoming so big, and he was becoming a star in his own right, to where he did no longer want to be under his big brother in Okada. So, as being a multi-divisional champion himself, he believes he's equal to Okada and always has been in his mind. So, again, this was once again the big brother showing his little brother that, yeah, you're great, but I'm the Rainmaker. And he did, like you said, the high fly flow, the Styles Clash, the V-Trigger, the One Wing Angel. He should have tried the Destino. Somebody else would beat Okada, but all right. I'm sorry, being a stinger. But anyway, Okada. The problem about that approach is that Okada has also grown from all of those moments that he has failed over the years, and he's become something unrecognizable, almost unbeatable in a straight up one-on-one match at this point. So it's just no one who embodies what New Japan Pro Wrestling is all about more than Okada. He used Inoki's Insiguri along with Masawa's, like you mentioned, the Flosion, the Cobra Flosion that they're doing. That's another, like, he's literally blending eras of New Japan excellence together into his final combination, right into his Rainmaker. Which again, now when I thought about it, I was like, oh, it is the 50th year of New Japan. Of course, the guy Okada is gonna be the flag bearer and the winner of the biggest tournament of this year in the 50th year of New Japan. It just made so much sense when I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Especially with a guy like Ospreay, who could be the future of New Japan if he continues to stick around, because he's been here a while now and he's still like only barely 30. So Ospreay has plenty of time to just continue. He will probably be the one who joined his name next to Kenny Omega as the only foreigner to win the whole thing of the G1. I think Ospreay will do that before it's all said and done if he continues to stick it out. But this is just incredible, man. I loved every second of it. This is what it's all about. This is what the G1 is all about. They usually save their last match. Their last gasp is usually the best. And that's exactly what this was. Fighting spirits at its finest.
Well, like I said, 35 minutes of kind of pure action. But again, it's the thing of even Okada, like, yes, he had to win this. But the way they've set it up through and even having, Jonah beat him, which, again, even if they don't face off until after maybe Okada beats Jay White, you've still got that storyline. You've got the Tama Tonga storyline. With there, like I said, with Will Ospreay, it shows you how important it is to New Japan being put in these positions and just deliver, like you said, 5-star match after 5-star match. The guy we spoke about as well, popping up on Dynamite, having like 18 matches in 30 days and not just 5 or 10 minute matches, like half hour. He lost the Rev Pro Heavyweight Championship as well to, I think, Ricky Knight Jr., which is Paige's nephew, which makes me feel even older than I should. But, so
right.
Will was going around 3 different continents delivering whatever he knows. And like we said with Ricardo coming up, it's great stuff. So we're going to go round now and ask highlight of the tournament. So Gina, for you, what were the highlights of the tournament for you? Even 1 or 2 moments that kind of stood out that you really, really enjoyed?
I'm going to definitely say Juice Robinson grabbing that referee's hand. But I think a highlight definitely is Tama Tonga getting that win, because for me, I was quite shocked, but I was also really excited for him to get that win. So I definitely think that that's a highlight for me. And yeah, just seeing Will Ospreay and kind of like gaining a bit of a love for the United Empire as a faction, I think that's another highlight, I'd say.
Yeah, without doubt. Jaxie, what about you?
I'm trying to think. I think overall, I'd say that a highlight was Tama Tonga's journey through the G1. It was really enjoyable to watch from my point of view. And I'd say, yeah, overall, having Okada come out as a winner, he obviously was a bit of a favourite of mine. So I'm a bit biased and just saying that was another highlight of mine.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like Zack Sabre Jr. and Kenta, seeing them square off was fantastic.
Yeah,
Jonah beating Okada is a moment outstanding. But, like, for me, Finlay stands on his own, showing that he can have a singles run.
Stand out quite well.
And also creating challenges for a title. Like you said, you come from here. And the thing is, like we talk about Okada's, it's like Austin winning the Rumble. Yeah, it was going to happen, but it's how you go about your business. And now, like we talk about, the way they set it up as well is really, really good. Monty, what about you? Because I know you watch it every year, but what stood out this year?
It's the little things for me, man. Kenta's book tour, the how many times the A Block by themselves made the crowd break rules because they've never seen big guys do things like that or haven't seen it in a while. I can go on forever, but yeah, the highlight that sticks out the most, besides enjoying all of that, was of course Jonah's the torpedo spot in general to Okada, and like again the audible gasp and just shock. It was like the splash heard around the world for a second there. It felt like, so it was a great moment.
Well, this might be a little bit easier for us to answer, but again, match of the tournament, I'm going to cop out and just say the final. So I don't mind anybody else Do that. Gina, what about you? What was the match of the tournament for you?
Oh, that's really difficult to say. Like, there were so many good matches, and I probably can't even remember which matches I'd love to say here off the top of my head now. The final was just peak, though. I can't lie in saying the build up on just having this eventually lead to Ospreay versus Okada. I definitely think it's one of the top matches for sure.
Yeah, I think about that. Jaxie, what about you?
Yep. Will Ospreay versus Okada was match and night. The match of the tournament for me.
Yeah, I've got to admit. Like I said, I did love Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kent. And Monty, what about you?
Yeah, same here. No, it was nothing really better. The only thing I would say is that Naito and Ospreay was right before that was incredible. But honestly, like you mentioned, you can just go. I can keep going forever. I wrote a lot.
Let's say this is kind of the same. Like, who's your MVP of the tournament?
Ospreay, man. I mean,
Tama Tonga for me.
Yeah,
he had matches with ELP. Literally, out of the 8 total matches, 6 of them were pretty close, really great. Out of 8 total matches, Ospreay killed 6 of them, and knocked them out of the park. So it's hard for me to go against Ospreay.
Jaxie, you went Tama Tonga, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. Again, his story, his whole overall underdog story was just incredible, and I felt he was MVP. Getting that win over Jay White was exactly what he needed to do. He needed to come back with fighting spirit, and so it told a story in itself. So even though he didn't win the whole G1 tournament, he's still a winner.
I think we're at that. And Gina, who's your MVP?
I mean, this is going to be a bit controversial, I think, because I actually said that I hated him throughout the whole thing.
No.
But I think Juice Robinson gave such a performance. Like, every time he was on, no matter whether... No, but you have to give him it. Every match he was on, he was entertaining. He really was. So from that perspective, I would say him. But I also think Naito. Am I saying it right? Naito?
Yeah. It's Naito.
I've said it 12 different times on this one.
Yeah.
Tetsuya Naito.
Naito.
I honestly think that he had such a great growth, like I said, for me, because I definitely saw him as an underdog and maybe, a little bit like a jobber of the G1. So I didn't expect him to go as far as he did. And for me, I think he outshined a lot.
Yeah, I think for me, Will on performance, like Monty said, but Jonah as a standout, so I think he'd be my MVP because they do. Like I said, that guy could go. I said this early on the year as well. Jonah could go to any company and legitimately be world champion in 6 months and no one would argue. He just needs a place to call home now, If that's on the Double R podcast as part of our team, then we'll see if we've got space for you, Jonah, but you never know. So overall, this is going to be a tough one. Overall rating for a G1. Now, Monty, I'm going to give this to you first because this is our first one. So I don't know how we're going to score it yet. So I guess out of 10, how would you rank this G1 in all the other ones in the history ever?
Oh, this is, like I said, I think I overall disagree that it probably should be safe to say 9. Here for me, it's strong. Definitely the best year since the pandemic had happened. This was just on the energy around this G1 was completely different than the last few, for obvious reasons, of course. But this was top tier stuff. Like you said, you have all the hoopla around who's gonna win certain blocks. You had the extra element of how they grouped off everyone. You had more people than ever here. And like you guys mentioned, a lot of people got introduced to many different styles of wrestling and many different types, different characters at one time. That happens all the time, but it's definitely been years in the past where it was not paced like this. It was not set up or even viewer friendly for new viewers. I think all the English commentary was pretty much on point. In years past, sometimes you would have to wait a few days for Kevin Kelly's English commentary. for him, and you just have to watch like the live Japanese one that I have watched in the past and all that. And hell, years before that, it was no such thing as comments with subtitles. Like it's so much more new user and English speaking friendly now too. I think, and I think that that makes an impact too on new people like you guys who are just trying to figure everything out. So I give it a 9. It's one of the strongest as far as like as far as wrestling goes. And then, like I said, with all the hoopla and the storytelling around how they announced the winner and how everything came, and just having Stardom girls there in the final, it felt different. This felt like a big deal for New Japan going forward. So I had to give it a 9.
Yeah, and you talk about there as well, accessibility. It's like I remember going on there a few years ago, trying to select like a Wrestle Kingdom and the individual matches on there, and I was like, how many fucking Wrestle Kingdoms are there? Like, and it's kind of more now with with the English content. You kind of follow that along. And like talking about the commentary as well, we didn't get to mention it, but like Lance Archer, Chase Owens, ELP, along with Kevin Kelly, really, really entertaining stuff. And like you said, it is good to see there. Jaxie, what would you rank the G1 Climax? Was it worth all those hours spent watching, and what would you score it?
Yeah, I would say it was worth all those hours watching. I really enjoyed this whole tournament. I will be checking it out next year, and I agree with a lot of Monty's commentary about it. So I'm going to go ahead and rate it 9 too.
And finally, Gina, I know, like we said, maybe we're not as accustomed as Monty is, but I think for me it was worthwhile. Was it worthwhile for you, and what would you score out of 10?
I'm going to go with a 9 as well. For my first G1, I was very entertained. I did feel stressed about having to catch up, but that's just because of the me having a holiday in between it all and me having to catch up for this podcast. But I think, in reality, even if I didn't have it, I'd still be looking to squeeze in this G1 tournament whenever I had time to watch it. So I've just thoroughly enjoyed it, and it deserves a 9. Hopefully I'll give it a 10 next year.
Yeah, I think without that, like I said, a 9 for me as well. Really, really good stuff. Yes, it's time to be finicky and pick things out, and it's too many events, the order of things, blah 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 blah. But that's for next year. I think this year we've just enjoyed it, and then we can pick it apart like we do with AEW and stuff like that afterwards. But I think really, really good. Anything else, Monty? Is there anything I've missed about the G1? I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, I think we got everything. The only thing I will say is that keep an eye out in the next few months or so, because usually the G1 winner defends his crown. They usually turn into a briefcase, so Okada could lose his spot in the final. It rarely goes like that, but it could happen, and he could lose it to Jonah. Jay White could lose his belt. We could have Tama Tonga and Jonah in the main event. Who knows? I'm just saying, this is my little promo to tell you guys, keep an eye out on New Japan going forward.
Well, that's out. And I'll tell you something as well. If you want more details and more up-to-date reviews of New Japan, like I said, Monty is the man to go and listen to. But we have found out the next big event in New Japan will be October 10th, which will be the NJPW Declaration of Power. And we will see Jay White defending his IWGP Heavyweight Championship against, of course, Tama Tonga. It's also been announced that Okada versus Jonah will take place there, which is...
There we go.
There we go. It's a match I'm fucking watching. I'm watching it. It's as simple as that. Job done. And also, another bit of news as well that we should mention is that, of course, New Japan is coming to England, and it's going to be in London. And, Jackson, we're hoping we can go for that, because obviously you want to see Okada in person and get dragged off by security.
Of course. Yeah, especially if it feels like fate, because it's actually on the weekend of both Gina and I's birthday. So it kind of feels like we need to go. It's our personal birthday present,
I think without doubt.
I also think that that's my ticket to Ricky Starks, because if Will Ospreay's going, we could try and say, hey, we're fellow Brits, come chat. I could let him know how much I love Ricky, and he could take that back to AEW for me. Yeah, so it works out.
The only issue is, and what I worry about you two is that you'll be sitting there speaking to Will, and he saying, "Yeah, guys," I don't want to do an American accent. He's British. "Yeah, guys, I'll take you to America and Japan, and if it's just you two," and then you see the sweating man with the beard walking over in his WNR t-shirt. Oh, he's with you, is he? Oh no, you're all right. You go, for fuck's sake! So that's not worrying about. Letting the team down.
Don't worry, we'll just say that you're the help.
It's like
No, you're our manager. You're our manager.
You're hitchhiking. You hide me in the bush.
What do we do?
Well, we could lie and just make up anything. They don't need to know. He's our manager, and
Yeah.
Well,
he's our booking manager. Oh, if you'd like our number, just get it off of him.
We did say that that James is the Paul Heyman to our Usos, didn't we?
Yeah, that's very true. So, yeah.
No,
Damn, you balding, James?
Yeah, see, I was like, my name is Paul Heyman. See, I can do that. That's an excellent way to end it. All this niceness, like we said, we've done the G1. I think we'll leave it there as that. And don't forget, of course, all social media, Twitter at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNR JR even. You can find the entire WNR team on a Twitter banner. And you can listen to more New Japan stuff with Monty. Monty, where can they find and or listen to you?
You can go on any platform that you listen to podcasts on, type in Mind of Monty, or you can go on YouTube, type in Mind of Monty, or you can just go, like you mentioned, the Twitter banner, or at Mind of Monty Pod. Check out my latest episode. We talked about all of the mess that seemed to be going on in AEW behind the scenes for some reason. I don't understand. It seems like just every time I turn around, it's something else. So I dug a little bit into that. But if you want to go an episode back, you can listen to my every match. I did every single match happening in this G1. An hour and 38 minutes. I don't know how I got through it, but I did. So there you go.
Fucking hell. Even I mean, I know you guys were worried when we pulled up today, but I wasn't going to put you through it.
Every block match.
It's an 18-hour show, guys.
From memory. It's a mess. But please go listen.
Wow. No, I'm going to listen to that just for what you did. No problems. Jaxie, where can people find you?
You can find me across both Twitter and Instagram at Jaxie Scarlett.
And Gina?
Yeah, I'm on both as well as Purple Pain.
And the Double also on Facebook and Instagram. Across all Google platforms, send us an email, doublepodcast@gmail.com. YouTube, Double Podcast with all latest clips. Podcasts at the same time. YouTube is do SoundCloud on your phone. Also Spotify and iTunes. You can download, subscribe, rate and review there. And I'll tell you somewhere else you can find us, actually. Next week, you can find us in Cardiff for Clash at the Castle. Because, believe it or not, this time next week, we would be at the stadium. It's probably Roman Reigns versus McIntyre as we talk, as we record right now in 7 days' time. So we will not be having a live pre-show. And look, I've had emails about doing it. I am not live pre-show, at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not taking my laptop to Wales. I'm not taking my microphone. So it's going to be as it is.
Yeah, let us enjoy this live. We'll probably more than likely meet up before this and go grab dinner and a drink. I don't think we're going to want to be trying to meet up to quickly try and do some form of podcast just before this. So do bear with us, but let us enjoy it as well. Okay.
Well, without doubt. So like I said, we're going to meet this Wednesday.
We'll do some Twitter updates and Twitter posts.
Yeah, we'll
so
take pictures
if you're watching it live, then follow along with us on Twitter. We'll try
Exactly, perfect. So what we're going to do instead is that we're all going to get together on Wednesday and we're going to talk about Raw and SmackDown, because Raw and SmackDown actually been quite good this past month. Surprisingly slow. As Monty says, AEW Dynamite, AEW just lost its shit. It's like WWE for the first time in 3 years.
I don't know why.
A bit positive, and AEW just have fucking lost it. Even the work shoot stuff and everything like that. So we'll talk about that as well. And of course, we've got predictions. We've got all-out predictions to give, Clash at the Castle predictions to give, and we might even look at Wells Collide as well. But until then, so we've got enough wrestling to be getting on with. But I hope everybody has joined it today. First up, like I said, the fantastic Jaxie Scarlett. Thank you for joining us, Jaxie, and thank you for putting up with me for 2.5 hours, and also for the G1 as well.
No, I've had fun doing it. I look forward to kind of seeing the overall outcome of what has come out of the G1. So we'll see how things go. But thanks again.
Gina, next time we speak to each other, we'll speak to each other Wednesday, but then after that, I'm going to go mental for Clash. So that should be quite fun to see if I can actually control myself in person, because I'm much more...
I shall try to control myself as well. I don't want to unleash, too much of G mode out on you to be overwhelming. So I will try to calm it in a bit.
My family has said, don't forget, James, you're very unlikable in person. So just as long as you remember that.
Don't worry, I'll be having a few drinks. You'll be likable by then.
We'll be shit-faced. I was going to say that, you and I. We won't even remember the Clash. We'll be doing the pod the following week. I don't fucking know. I was old, she was holding my hair back at that point. Who knows what was going on? So who knows?
I think it's gonna be a great weekend. And like I said, I feel like it might end up with myself and Jaxie carrying you out the stadium because you're so overwhelmed. And it's fine.
It's all right. We got you.
We got you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm getting the sweats now. I'm getting the nervous sweats for Cardiff, but we'll be fine because, like I said, we're going to get sorted out. But excitement level is building. But we have done the G1. So like I said, thank you for everybody for joining me here. And thank you everybody for listening. I have been James Rowlands. And bye.